Chapter 240. Su Yang. Hearing this, Xia Ping calmly looked at Su Yang. I'm an official member of the giant corporation. Don't you know what will happen to you if you offend me? Didn't your family elders tell you to swallow your pride and live with your tail between your legs? He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at Su Yang calmly. Live with your sister. Su Yang was so angry that his nose was crooked. He glared at Xia Ping, his whole body trembling. You, a country bumpkin, want me to endure humiliation and live with my tail between my legs? Who do you think you are? I, Su Yang, have never known humiliation since I was young. I've always taken my revenge, and it won't be long before that happens. Indeed, you're from the giant corporation, which is amazing. But this is the Yanhuang University exam, and this is the wild sand ruins. If I kill you here, nothing will happen to me, and the giant corporation can't do anything about it. Do you understand? He clenched his fists, his expression ferocious. Humph, does this kid think this is the Yangzhou district, a civilized area? What a joke. Enter the wild sand ruins. This is a lawless place. Even the giant corporation can't do anything about it. You want to use your status as a member of the giant corporation to act like a tyrant? What a joke. You're not even worth a fart here. Instead of surrendering and sucking up to us, you still dare to put on airs? You really don't know what's good for you. The Huajing young masters laughed coldly, looking at Xia Ping with disdain. Jiang Yaru and the others gritted their teeth. They finally understood that these people had been plotting for a long time. They wanted to kill Xia Ping in this exam and get rid of him. After all, Xia Ping was a member of the giant corporation. If they were in the outside world, the Huajing families wouldn't dare to do anything. If they did, they would immediately face the revenge of the giant corporation and die without a grave. But in the exam, killing someone was not a crime. The giant corporation couldn't do anything about it, and the big families in Huajing naturally wouldn't worry about the giant corporation's revenge. Xia Ping. Su Yuntian pulled out his long sword and stared at Xia Ping. I had no enmity with you, but you offended Su Yang and my Su family. This is the reason for your death. A genius like you, if you don't die, my Su family won't be able to eat and sleep in peace. When you go to hell and meet the king of hell, remember that it was I, Su Yuntian, who killed you. With a boom, Su Yuntian, known as the #1 expert in Huajing City and a martial artist in the fourth heaven, finally made his move. He slashed with his sword. The first form of the thunderclap sword art, space-shattering lightning. Immediately, the sword slashed out, and the sword chi swept out. It was as if countless thunderbolts had exploded in the air. It was also like a dancing thunder snake, bursting with terrifying power. Any enemy would die a violent death under such violent sword chi. They would be forcefully torn apart and turned into powder. Too powerful. This is the master-level thunder sword art. With one slash, it's like 10,000 lightning bolts soaring into the sky. Although Su Yuntian didn't fully display the profundity of this sword technique, it's enough to kill all enemies. No wonder he is called the #1 genius in Huajing City. He has even mastered a grandmaster martial technique to perfection. With such power, he can definitely challenge an ordinary martial artist in the fifth heaven. This Xia Ping is dead for sure. He is only in the second heaven of the martial artist realm. Whether it is genuine chi, strength or speed, he is no match for Su Yuntian. He will probably be killed by the sword. Although this Xia Ping is also a genius and is qualified to join the giant company, that is also potential. If the potential is not fully displayed, it is just a fart. The Su family is really ruthless. Knowing that they have offended a monstrous genius, they immediately kill him and completely eradicate the future disaster of their family. This is the ruthlessness of a big family. It is not something ordinary people can imagine. It's also Xia Ping's fault for being too arrogant and domineering. He didn't know how to hide his strength and bide his time. He offended a century-old family like the Su family and provoked such a fatal disaster. Who can he blame? Many candidates were talking about it. They all thought that Xia Ping was dead for sure. It was simply impossible to survive the Su family's killing trap. Bang! Xia Ping was unmoved by this move. He suddenly made a move and slapped with his palm. His palm contained strong genuine qi and operated the Dark North body protection skill on his body. Immediately, the two forces collided, the air exploded, and the ground under his feet immediately cracked. Kacha kacha, gravel splashed in all directions, stretching for hundreds of meters. At the same time, a strong wind shot in all directions, condensed into a substance and swept around. Some of the candidates who were closer were caught off guard and were hit by the strong wind. They flew out directly, coughed up blood in the air, and were seriously injured. How is it possible? Su Yintian's eyes widened in disbelief. This was an attack from a martial artist in the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. Although he did not use his full strength, it was not something that a martial artist in the second heaven of the martial artist realm could withstand. But what was going on now? This kid easily resisted his move and didn't even take half a step back. That's all. Xia Ping twisted his neck and looked at Su Yintian indifferently. If the number one genius in Huajing only has this ability, then I will kill you and send you to hell. He had cultivated the second level of the Dark North body protection skill, and his defensive power had greatly increased. He didn't know how strong it was. To break his defense, it would take at least the fifth heaven of the martial artist realm. Although Su Yintian's strength was good, it was not enough now. However, he also felt that his body was indeed threatened, and there was a surge of power. He felt that he was only one step away from opening the third acupoint and advancing to the third heaven of the martial artist realm. With the help of Su Yintian, he could speed up the process, so he had to completely anger the other party. Shut up, shut up. Su Yintian suddenly went crazy and his face was ferocious. He felt that his dignity had been insulted. He was the number one genius in Huajing and an expert in the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. If he couldn't even deal with a martial artist in the second heaven of the martial artist realm, then what face did he have? What right did he have to be called a genius? He shouted angrily, I am the number one genius in Huajing, the number one genius in the Su family. I have cultivated to the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm at the age of 18 and defeated countless geniuses in Huajing. How can I not deal with a country boy like you? You want to show off in front of me, Su Yintian? You are not qualified. You are not qualified at all. Do you understand? With a boom, he was extremely angry. His body surged with a violent aura, and like thunder, he slashed out with his sword. The second move of the thunderclap swordsmanship, ear-piercing thunder. This was also the ultimate meaning of the thunderclap swordsmanship. When the sword was slashed out, the whole world seemed to be filled with terrible thunder, shaking the surroundings and making the surrounding candidates' eardrums hurt as if they were about to be torn. Chapter 241. Go to hell. Su Yintian's face was ferocious. He thrust his long sword forward like lightning, so fast that ordinary warriors couldn't catch it at all. It stabbed at Xia Ping's chest fiercely. This was the terrifying secret of the second move of the thunderclap swordsmanship. When the sword was used, it was as fast as lightning. Often, the enemy could only hear the sound of thunder before the long sword pierced through the enemy's chest. He had cultivated for a whole 10 years before finally mastering this killer move. Usually, he wouldn't use it at all because once he used it, it would be a matter of life and death. Bang! This sword pierced Xia Ping's chest firmly. Immediately, the air exploded and there was a thunderous roar like a volcano eruption. The power was terrifying. Die, die, die for me! Su Yintian roared. The blue veins on his forehead bulged. He almost used all the strength in his body. He used the genuine qi of the fourth heaven of the martial warrior realm to the extreme. This was his peak attack. With a bang, Xia Ping was pushed back more than 10 steps by the sword. A deep ravine appeared on the ground. With a cracking sound, smoke and dust billowed. It was a shocking scene. However, Su Yuntian soon discovered that his long sword couldn't pierce through Xia Ping's chest. It was still blocked by a layer of genuine qi and couldn't move an inch. How is this possible? Are you kidding me? What kind of protective skill did you cultivate? Why can't I pierce through it? Why can't my thunderclap swordsmanship pierce through your heart? Why is this happening? Su Yuntian broke down. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His thunderclap swordsmanship was invincible and was a grandmaster-level sword move. But now, he thought that he had used the highest profound meaning and was so tyrannical that he could even kill a fifth heaven of the martial artist realm expert. But now, he couldn't even pierce the chest of a martial artist realm expert at the second heaven. If this was a joke, then it was a big joke. I have to thank you. Xia Ping stepped out. With a bang, his aura rose and was more than twice as strong as before. His whole person was like an ancient fierce beast. The tyrannical genuine qi caused the air to vibrate. With a bang, the fine steel sword in Su Yuntian's hand was shattered by the vital energy, turning into a dozen or so metal shards that fell to the ground, creating a deep pit. If it wasn't for your move that stimulated the efficacy of the 9 revolutions vitality-enhancing pill in my body, I wouldn't have been able to clear the third acupoint so quickly and advance to the third heaven of the martial artist realm. He could feel the Jinqi in his body surging, circulating crazily through his meridians. A large amount of the medicinal power was converted into Jinqi, rushing towards the third insight acupoint. His cells, bones, muscles and so on were all being strengthened. This medicinal effect was the 9 transformations essence enhancing pill. Previously, when he was in the Black Moon Tower, he broke through to the second heaven of the martial artist realm with the help of the 9 revolutions vitality-enhancing elixir. However, that was only a small part of the 9 revolutions vitality-enhancing elixir. Most of the elixir was hidden in the depths of his body, waiting for Xia Ping to continuously stimulate it. This was the true value of the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill. It was the reason why countless cultivators desired it. Its medicinal energy was gentle, unlike other peak-grade medicinal pills, which had a violent medicinal energy that would burst out in an instant. Strong cultivators could withstand it, but the weak could not and would explode and die. However, the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill was not like this. Even low-level cultivators could take it. This was because its medicinal energy was divided into 9 stages. The medicinal energy that erupted from each stage was stronger and more violent than the previous stage. When a cultivator's body reached a certain level, the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill would automatically erupt. It would constantly strengthen the Jinqi in the cultivator's body and promote their cultivation. It was extremely safe. Previously, when Xia Ping first took it, it was the first stage of the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill. Now, because of Su Yuntian's threat, the second stage of the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill erupted. There was still a 7th stage of the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill remaining. It would only stop when the medicinal energy of the 9 revolution essence nurturing pill was exhausted. Breakthrough at the last moment. He actually broke through at the last moment. Is this kid a freak? He's definitely a pure big freak. I've only seen things like breaking through at the last moment in textbooks. I only treated it as a story. I didn't expect someone to actually do it. Monster, this guy is definitely a peerless monster. No wonder even the giant company recruited this kid. Just this talent alone is enough to shock countless geniuses. He's only at the second heaven of the martial warrior realm and he's already so abnormal. If he advances to the third heaven of the martial warrior realm, won't this guy be against the natural order? He's really going against the natural order. Su Yuntian is threatening him. The examinees at the side were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they saw. No one knew better than them how difficult it was to break through to the first heaven of the martial warrior realm. Moreover, it was a breakthrough at the last moment. This was simply impossible. However, this Xia Ping had forcibly created such a miracle. It was unknown how many people's eyeballs were shocked. This. Chu Rong was speechless. She remembered that when they first met, this kid also broke through at the last moment in front of her. She thought that it was a coincidence, a miracle, and that it would never happen again. But now it happened again. It was too incredible. Su Yang, do it. Do it now. Su Yuntian felt a threat from Xia Ping. That was a fatal threat. He couldn't help but roar, "Don't watch the show from the side. Join hands and kill this kid. Kill him now. Don't drag it out." He was completely frightened by this Xia Ping. Breaking through at the last moment was done by this kid. What else couldn't he do? No wonder he became a member of the giant company. His talent was terrifying. It was just like what the family had said. If such a genius didn't die, the Su family wouldn't be able to eat and sleep in peace. Su Yang and the others thought that Su Yuntian alone could kill Xia Ping. They were still watching the show from the side. But when they heard Su Yuntian's roar, they seemed to have woken up from a dream. All of them wanted to rush over and join hands to deal with Xia Ping. It's too late. Xia Ping rushed over and circulated the true qi in his body. The fourth style of the myriad beast's fists, raging bull strike. His entire body was like a primordial diabolical bull, emitting terrifying strength. His muscles bulged, and true energy enveloped his entire body, as if he was wearing a layer of armor. He was invincible, and when he charged forward, it seemed as if even a mountain would collapse. Arg! Su Yuntian wanted to punch out, but he couldn't block it at all. When Xia Ping rammed into him like that, it was as if he was being attacked by an ancient raging bull. The bones in his fist were instantly crushed. In fact, this force spread out inch by inch, injuring his internal organs. He couldn't help but cough out a mouthful of blood. His face was deathly pale, and pain spread all over his body. It was as if he was being bitten by countless ants. He had never experienced such intense pain in his life. Chapter 242. Stop! What are you doing? Let go of Su Yuntian right now. Are you crazy? Stop! Do you want to die? Seeing Su Yuntian's neck being grabbed by Xia Ping, the young masters of Huajing were shocked. They all cursed and shouted at Xia Ping, trying to stop him. Su Yang was even more shocked. If Su Yuntian, the number one genius of the Su family, died here, the whole family would be shaken. Many elders would be furious, and even he would not be able to get away with it. Damn bastard, what are you doing to me? Su Yuntian was shocked and angry. His neck was red from being grabbed. He stared at Xia Ping and said, "How dare you do this to me? Do you want to die? Do you want to die?" He wanted to struggle, but with Xia Ping holding him like this, he could not exert any strength at all. "Xia Ping, let go of Su Yuntian right now." Su Yang also shouted, "He is a member of the Su family. If you touch him, you will become an enemy of the Su family. Do you want to bring trouble to your family? Oh, tell the Su family to bite me." With a bang, Xia Ping looked at Su Yuntian coldly and twisted his neck. Using his true qi, he broke Su Yuntian's neck. Su Yuntian's eyes were wide open. He could not believe he was dead like this. He was the number one genius of the Su family and the number one fighter in Huajing. He was going to enter Yanhuang University in the future, and there was hope for him to become a king realm fighter. But now he was dead. The exam had just started, and he was killed. The other candidates gasped. They could not believe their eyes. This was a genius of the Su family, Su Yuntian, and he was killed by Xia Ping just like that. He did not show any mercy at all. This method was too shocking. There was no room for negotiation. Was this kid not afraid of offending the Su family? Xia Ping. Seeing Su Yuntian die like this, Su Yang's eyes were wide open. He shouted to the sky, "You damn bastard, how dare you kill Su Yuntian? How dare you kill a member of the Su family? How dare you do such a disgraceful thing? You killed Su Yuntian. My Su family will fight you to the death. Do you understand?" He was going crazy. He could not imagine how much of an uproar the Su family would be in if news of his cousin's death got back to them. Perhaps even his father would be severely punished. This was the future of the Su family, yet it had been destroyed by this brat just like that. He wished that he could tear Xiaoping apart right now. Only your Su family is allowed to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill you. Your Su family's lives are valuable, but my life isn't. Xiaoping clenched his fists tightly, and a terrifying aura surged out from his body like an ancient ferocious beast. You still won't rest until you're dead? Ever since you dared to make a move against me, it has become a matter of life and death. I can tell you that once I advance into the King realm, I'll definitely annihilate your Su clan and leave no one alive. Killing Su Yuntian now is just collecting some interest in advance. Don't think that you don't have to pay a price for angering me. I'll let you know what it means to be angered by an ordinary man, and that not everyone can be killed by you. Not everyone can be offended by your Su family. If you offend me, you have to die. A terrifying murderous aura emanated from his body and shot into the sky. The people around him could feel the palpitations in their hearts, and they could not help but take a few steps back, afraid that they would be affected. Xia Ping's chest was filled with murderous intent. These young masters of Huajing City were unscrupulous. They thought that they could do whatever they wanted because they were from a large family and had a strong background. They thought that no one dared to kill them, and even if they offended him, they would not die. That was why these people were so arrogant and looked down on everyone. But who was Xia Ping? He was an official member of the giant company, and he had a giant behind him. Even if he killed this group of people, the families behind them would not dare to act rashly. With the giant company behind him, he had nothing to fear. Even if these Huajing families hated him, even if they were unwilling, they could only grit their teeth and swallow it because they could not afford to offend him. Revenge? They were not qualified to do so. Shut up and die. Su Yang shouted angrily. He rushed forward and immediately exploded with the strength of a martial artist fourth sky. He threw a punch, and the power was no less than Su Yuntian's. Last night, he had taken the life potion. Not only had his injuries healed, but he had also cleared the fourth acupoint and advanced to the martial artist fourth sky. His strength had increased greatly. He did this to kill Xia Ping. Even Su Yuntian was killed by my punch. Do you think you are qualified? Seeing Su Yang rushing towards him, Xia Ping sneered and struck out with his palm. The third style of the myriad beast fist, bear-splitting palm. His whole body turned into a black bear, extremely violent, shaking the forest. The huge bear palm struck out, the air exploded, the true chi vibrated, and a terrifying aura burst out. At this moment, the ground could not withstand such a terrifying aura, and 5 or 6 cracks immediately appeared. Huge pits appeared under Xia Ping's feet, making cracking sounds. Bang! His palm struck out, sweeping everything in its path. It hit Su Yang's fist fiercely, and in an instant, Su Yang was sent flying as if he was swatting a fly. Ah! Su Yang immediately let out a shrill scream. In the face of this extremely terrifying power, the bones of his right fist were smashed into pieces like a flood bursting through a dam. A vast force blasted his body away, and he flew more than 10 meters in the air. Finally, he smashed hard on the ground, creating a human-shaped pit. With a puff, his lungs were injured, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood, staining his clothes red. How is this possible? I have advanced to the martial artist fourth sky, but I am still not a match for this kid's one move. Su Yang was on the verge of collapse. He could not believe this fact at all. He thought that he had cleared 4 acupoints, and his true chi was more than twice as thick. Whether it was strength or speed, he was above Xia Ping. He should be the one who beat Xia Ping like a dead dog. But now, he was so miserable. He was not a match for Xia Ping at all, and he was crippled in one move. Go to hell. Xia Ping was unforgiving. He chased after Su Yang and attacked with a punch, wanting to kill Su Yang. Not good, run. Su Yang finally came to his senses. He knew that he was not a match for Xiaoping at all. He immediately rolled, and with a bang, a punch fell from the sky and hit the ground fiercely, immediately creating a deep pit. And this was also dodged by Su Yang. Taking advantage of this force, he rolled and crawled, frantically fleeing into the distance. Now, he did not care about his demeanor, he just wanted to live. Want to run? Xia Ping's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He would never let the culprit, Su Yang, go. Rumble. Chapter 243. In the distance, in the endless desert, huge rats rushed over. Each of them was the size of an ordinary cat, and their bodies were pitch black, as if they were wearing black armor. Their mouths revealed ferocious fangs, and their limbs were strong. They ran madly at an extremely fast speed, like a small car. Hundreds and thousands of them rushed over like a flood, attacking and devouring everything. Damn it, these are monstrous desert rats. It's over, why did we encounter desert rats? It's said that these desert rats like to form groups, and when they move, there will be thousands of them, like an aggressive army. Every desert rat is extremely terrifying. Their fur is harder than steel, and bullets can't penetrate it. Their fangs are sharp, and they can easily tear steel apart. Anything will be swept away by them, and they are called desert scavengers. I'm so unlucky to encounter this group of desert rats. They're playing with their lives. Seeing these desert rats appear, the ground trembled, and many of the candidates' expressions changed. They had studied the monster encyclopedia, and they immediately recognized the origin of these monsters. They also knew how powerful they were. Once these desert rats appeared in groups, even a martial warrior realm expert would have to retreat. The appearance of these desert rats represented a beast tide. It represented death, and it would slaughter everything. Great, the heavens are helping me, the heavens are helping me. However, there was someone who was quite happy, and that was Su Yang. Seeing these desert rats attack in groups, he knew that he was finally saved. Under the attack of these terrifying desert rats, no matter how crazy Xiaoping was, he would not dare to attack him at this time, unless he wanted to die. And he could take this opportunity to quickly escape, and then look for a chance to kill that damn Xiaoping. I'm indeed a God's favored one, able to turn misfortune into fortune in the face of danger. Just you wait, once I escape, Xiaoping, you're dead. I'll use all means to kill you. Su Yang's eyes were filled with murderous intent, but these thoughts only flashed in his mind for a moment. His movements were extremely fast, and he flew into the distance. Want to run? A cold light flashed in Xiaoping's eyes, and he immediately used the Kunpeng steps. His entire body was like a Kunpeng, gliding in the air at an extremely fast speed, tearing through the air, and instantly shortening the distance between him and Su Yang. With a bang, he punched through the air and hit Su Yang. Ah! Su Yang screamed miserably, continuously coughing out blood. His chest had been punched, but he didn't dare to stop, continuing to run. He cried out in alarm, "Are you crazy? When the desert rats attack, once they get close, you'll be killed and eaten by them. Do you want to die with me? I will kill you." Xiaoping's tone was filled with endless killing intent. His will to kill Su Yang was like steel, no one could change it, no one could shake it. If it weren't for the fact that he more or less had a bit of strength, perhaps Su Yang and the others would have succeeded today. Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu would all be humiliated by these people, and their lives would be ruined. And he would also be humiliated and killed by these people. How could he not take revenge for such a grudge? It was even to the extent that if Su Yang was allowed to escape, it was unknown how much trouble he would cause in the future. Just by relying on the power of the Su clan, coupled with his viciousness and cunning, Xiaoping would have to worry about Su Yang's revenge in the future. Therefore, Su Yang had to die. Anyone who dared to stop him had to die. Madman, this guy is a madman. Su Yang was terrified. He could feel the terrifying killing intent in Xiaoping's heart. Even the attack of the desert rats couldn't stop Xiaoping's determination to kill him. He immediately yelled at the Huajing princes, "Do it, kill this brat together. As long as you help me, Su Yang will remember this favor and reward you handsomely, handsomely." He screamed at the top of his lungs as he ran toward the young masters of Huajing city. Seeing this, the Huajing princes immediately cursed in their hearts, their faces turning green. How could they not know that Su Yang was clearly trying to draw trouble to them, and wanted to use their strength to escape? But at this point, they were in the same boat. It was impossible for them not to help. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the princes attacked. Their fists were like the wind, bombarding the air towards Xiaoping, trying to buy time. Once the desert rats arrived, even if he didn't want to run, he would have no choice but to die. "You're courting death." Immediately, Xiaoping felt a few punches bombarding his body, but they were blocked by his Dark North protective skill. Although they didn't cause much damage to him, they successfully slowed him down. Taking advantage of this time, Su Yang ran a little further. Boom! The second style of the myriad beast fist, Lion's Roar. Xiaoping let out a furious roar that contained true energy fluctuations. The air exploded, forming a terrifying sound wave that swept out in all directions. Ripples appeared in the air, spreading out like waves in the sea. When he was still in the second heaven of the martial warrior realm, a lion's roar was enough to kill an expert in the second heaven of the martial warrior realm. Now that he had advanced to the third heaven of the martial warrior realm, its power was more than doubled, and it was simply invincible. Bang, bang, bang. The 4 or 5 Huajing candidates who tried to block Xiaoping immediately let out shrill screams. Their bodies were attacked by the sound wave, and they were sent flying. Blood flowed out of their orifices, and their lungs were severely injured. With a bang, they fell to the ground one by one, creating a deep pit. Their eyes were wide open, and it was obvious that they had been shocked to death. Even their hearts were shattered at this moment. Monster, this is a monster. Who dares to stop him? Stopping him means death. Run, this guy is several times more terrifying than a desert rat. This is a real monster. Seeing this, the remaining young masters of Huajing were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Just a roar had killed 5 people. Standing in front of this kid, they were like mantises trying to stop a chariot. With a few whooshes, they no longer had any courage. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and they all fled in all directions. Trash, you're all a bunch of trash. What's the use of you? Su Yang was furious. He had wanted to use the strength of these scoundrel friends to escape. But who would have thought that these guys would be so weak? With just one move, they were defeated so badly that they didn't even buy him any time to escape. Stay here. Xiaoping threw a punch in the air. The spiritual qi in his body ran to the extreme, and his momentum rose. His fist was like a seal, and he punched out. 30 meters away, Su Yang was still running, but he was hit by a punch. With a bang, he flew out like garbage and hit the ground, coughing up blood. Chapter 244. No, no, no. Su Yang's eyes were filled with despair. He was seriously injured. If he was still in Huajing, he might be able to get into a hospital and his life wouldn't be in danger. But this was the wild sand relic. There were no hospitals or medicines around, and they were in such a dangerous environment. Even if Xiaoping didn't kill him now, he would become a dried corpse here. With a swoosh, Xiaoping appeared in front of Su Yang and looked down at him. He looked at the direct descendant of the Su family, the son of the mayor of Huajing. Xiaoping. Su Yang raised his head and stared at Xiaoping. He said angrily, "What do you want? You killed my cousin, Su Yuntian, and now you want to kill me. Do you want to make the Su family your enemy? To tell you the truth, Su Yang, I'm not someone you can kill. If you dare to touch me, the Su family will not let you go. Your parents, your relatives will live a life worse than death, a life worse than death, do you know that? Even the giant company can't protect you. If you know what's good for you, you'll..." His face was ferocious as he tried to threaten Xiaoping. Shut up. Before Su Yang could finish speaking, Xiaoping's eyes turned cold, and he suddenly made a move. His palm slammed into Su Yang's head like a roaring bear. With a bang, Su Yang's head immediately exploded into pieces like a watermelon. He was no longer able to make any sound. He was already deader than dead. How laughable. Someone like you dares to threaten me? If the Su family were so strong, they would have killed me last night. Why wait until now? Xiaoping sneered. He was not moved. He looked at Su Yang, who had been killed by his palm. He knew that Su Yang was just bluffing. If they were so strong and fearless, they wouldn't have chosen to kill him during the exam at Yanhuang University. It was because they weren't that strong that they resorted to all kinds of tricks and tricks. These things exposed their lack of confidence. The truly invincible powerhouses wouldn't waste time talking to you. If you weren't happy, you could just kill them. There was nothing you could do. Su Yang was used to acting like a tyrant. He had been the boss in Huajing for too long, and he thought his Su family was superior everywhere. Everyone feared the Su family and treated him with respect. But in front of Xiaoping, he kicked an iron plate and was killed on the spot. Tragic. This is too tragic. The two geniuses of the Su family have been annihilated. The Su family has suffered a great loss this time. Isn't that right? Now that two geniuses have died, the Su family will suffer a heavy blow for at least 10 years. But who told them to offend someone they couldn't afford to offend? They asked for it. Does he really think he's invincible just because he's from the Su family of Huajing? Who do you think Xiaoping is? He's a member of the giant corporation and a future king realm cultivator. Is he someone the Su family can touch? If the two of them had killed Xiaoping this time, perhaps nothing would have happened. But now, the two of them are dead while Xiaoping is still alive. This will bring a great disaster to the Su family in the future. There's the danger of extermination in the future. But Xiaoping is ruthless enough. He actually dared to kill Su Yang and Su Yuntian in front of so many people. How tyrannical. Even I am trembling with fear. Isn't he afraid that the Su family will do something desperate? In this world, if you aren't ruthless, who would be afraid of you? You're just a nobody with no background. If you aren't ruthless, everyone will treat you like a soft persimmon and step on you like trash. Only by killing them until they are afraid will they know what fear is. Before, the Su family didn't know what pain was, but soon they will. Many of the candidates were discussing. Seeing how Xiaoping killed Su Yang and Su Yuntian without hesitation, ruthless and merciless, they were instantly terrified. They didn't dare to underestimate Xiaoping in the slightest. Xiaoping. At this time, Jiang Yaru immediately rushed over. She didn't care about the dead Su Yang, but looked ahead worriedly. The desert rats are coming. We'd better run, or we'll be finished. Chu Rong, Nangong Wu, and Feng Hetang nodded. Although they had eliminated the threat of Su Yang and his group, they were now facing an even greater threat. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, those examinees had already fled as fast as they could. Facing the huge number of desert rats, they would only die if they stayed here. Once they were surrounded, they would immediately be swallowed up. Some of them used lightness skills like they were floating on water, stepping on the sand as they fled, like a wisp of smoke. Some took big strides, like cheetahs, their muscles trembling as they ran madly, tearing through the air. Some hugged their hands and feet together, and even rolled towards the ground like a ball, rumbling loudly. Even if some of the candidates weren't fast enough, they gritted their teeth, their faces flushed red, and ran with all their might. In an instant, a group of Yangzhou students fled in all directions, not daring to stay. Rumble at this time, tens of thousands of desert rats arrived, stirring up a cloud of dust and causing the ground to tremble. They were like an army. During the cataclysm, this kind of force was enough to flatten a small city and plunge the people into misery and suffering. It's over, we're completely finished. We're all going to become food in the stomachs of these desert rats. Seeing these desert rats attacking, Feng Hatang's face turned green. Even if they escaped now, it was too late. These desert rats were extremely fast and had extremely strong endurance. They were just like cars. How could ordinary warriors escape? Not to mention, they didn't even have time to escape now. In a few breaths, tens of thousands of desert rats would pounce on them and devour their flesh and blood. It's okay, you guys go first, I'll cover from behind. Xia Ping waved his hand, indicating that they didn't need to worry. He had Dark North body protection technique, and his defense was extremely strong. These desert rats couldn't hurt him at all. No matter how many there were, it was all the same. This was only to help him cultivate. What? Hearing this, Jiang Yaru and the others were all shocked. If they stayed behind to protect the rear, they would have to face the large number of desert rats. That was a dead end for them. Did Xia Ping want to die? Big brother. Feng Hatang's eyes were full of tears. He wanted to kowtow to Xia Ping. He was now ashamed to the extreme. He had thought that Xia Ping was a despicable and shameless scum, but he didn't expect that at the critical moment, he would come out. What was a warrior? A true warrior who stood up at the moment of life and death and fought for a life for his companions. Get lost, don't be a hindrance here. I'm not staying here to seek death. Do you think I'm such a stupid person? Xia Ping said snappily. In fact, he had just broken through to the third heaven of the warrior realm, and his cultivation was still a little unstable. Therefore, he also wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to cultivate and consolidate his martial arts foundation, so he made such a request. Otherwise, he would have slipped away a long time ago. Hearing this, Jiang Yaru and the others all came to their senses. This bastard was a guy who was smarter than a monkey. If his life was really in danger, he could guarantee that he would run faster than anyone else. He would never be so loyal to cover the rear. It was estimated that Xia Ping had the ability to save his life, so he dared to say such words. Okay, then be careful. Chapter 245. Rumble. Just a few breaths after Jiang Yaru and others fled, thousands of desert rats attacked. They seemed to smell the smell of food. All of them were excited, opened their fangs, and the powerful strength of their limbs broke out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, hundreds of desert rats rushed over, each of them like an extremely ferocious beast. Their fangs were enough to tear steel, and the power of their collision was like a high-speed bicycle. It is completely conceivable that the prey targeted by these desert rats is absolutely dead, so they are called desert scavengers, which is the terrible overlord of the desert world. However, Xia Ping's expression was very calm, his eyes were like a lake, without any fluctuations, just standing in place, running Dark North body protection technique, and watching these desert rats come to die. When he was in Black Moon Tower, facing the extremely ferocious monsters like the Blood Demon Wolf, thousands of them attacked him, but they couldn't kill him, but were slaughtered by him. It's simply a dream for some desert rats to kill Xia Ping. Not to mention, now that he has been promoted to the third heaven of the warrior realm and opened 3 acupoints, his innate chi is incomparably strong, many times stronger than before, so he is even more fearless. These desert rats rushed up and bit Xia Ping, but as soon as they touched Xia Ping's body, they were bombarded by a terrible recoil force. Even their fangs were broken in an instant, and a lot of blood spurted out, making a miserable scream. At this time, Dark North body protection technique is fully running, and the surface of his body is covered with a layer of flowing innate chi. This is a 360-degree defense without a dead angle, no matter where the desert rats come from. Bang bang bang. In just one breath, hundreds of desert rats that rushed up were immediately shocked into a mass of meat by the terrible force, and even the sharp and hard fangs were broken into several pieces, making a cracking sound. A pool of blood appeared on the ground, and the air was filled with an unpleasant smell. However, seeing this scene, the desert rats next to him seemed to be even more angry, fearless, and rushed forward madly. 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000, in the end, 5,000 desert rats died, and the ground was piled up like a hill of corpses. The blood was like a river, flowing on the desert land, giving off the stench of corpses. Ha! Are there no more desert rats? Xia Ping enjoyed the feeling of his true energy increasing. Every time he struck, the powerful force would help him dissolve the medicinal energy in his body, triggering the third cycle of the 9 revolutions essence-enhancing pill. He could feel his true qi increasing at a crazy rate. He reckoned that the cultivation this time was comparable to a week of his usual cultivation. The benefits were unimaginable, and it even helped him to sort out his flesh and temper his physique. However, 5,000 desert rats had died, and they had paid a heavy price. No matter how fearless and stupid these desert rats were, they knew that this person was not a creature they could provoke. One by one, the desert rats looked at the human in front of them in fear. None of them dared to step forward. They surrounded Xia Ping, but none of them dared to rush forward. With Xia Ping at the center, a vacuum was formed. Large numbers of desert rats circled around him from all directions and did not attack him again. What a terrifying race! How many of them are there? 10,000, 30,000, 100,000, or 200,000? Xia Ping looked into the distance. He was surrounded by densely packed desert rats. They covered the sky and covered the earth. Their numbers were terrifying. If those examinees had stayed here, they would have died. They would have been devoured to the point where not even their bones would have been left. But even so, a few examinees who were too slow were killed by the desert rats, leaving only a few bones behind. Forget it. Jiang Yaru and the others should have run far away by now. I don't have time to waste with them here. Let's go. Xia Ping's heart thumped. He immediately used the Kunpeng steps and ran off into the distance. The surrounding desert rats were already terrified. No one dared to stop him. They all opened up a path for Xia Ping to pass. Whoosh! 10 minutes later, Xia Ping caught up to Jiang Yaru and the others. Xia Ping, you're all right? Seeing Xia Ping return safe and sound, Jiang Yaru and the others were overjoyed. They knew that with Xia Ping's strength, those desert rats shouldn't be able to do anything to him. But there were just too many of them. Even if each one wasn't very strong, when there were over 10,000 of them and they were all fearless, it was extremely terrifying. Even a normal fighter would die if they were attacked by these desert rats. After all, even if you killed 1,000, there would still be tens of thousands coming. Once your true qi ran out, you were dead. Of course I'm fine. Xia Ping waved his hand. Nangong Wu said, you're fine, but we're in trouble now. The temperature here is just too high, too high. It's not a place humans can live in at all. If it weren't for the fact that we circulated our cultivation technique and locked the water vapor in our bodies, we would have lost water even faster. If we continue to stay here, we'll all be burnt to death. Her tone was extremely serious. The 3 suns in the sky were scorching hot, and the temperature was extremely high. As they walked through this desert, they felt like they were in a steamer. Sweat poured out of their bodies like faucets. Her clothes were completely soaked and stuck to her body, revealing her proud curves. Is that so? Why don't I feel anything? Instead, I feel quite comfortable. Xia Ping touched his chin. He felt as if he was soaking in a hot spring when the sun energy fell on his body. A warm energy flowed through his meridians, constantly strengthening the Jin Qi in his body. It was getting stronger every second. Big brother, you're a freak. We're just ordinary people. We can't compare, Feng Hetong said sullenly. Feng Hetong said sullenly. His body was fat, so he was naturally more resistant to heat than ordinary people. After being attacked by such a high temperature, his clothes were completely soaked, as if water had entered his body. Every step he took consumed a large amount of energy. Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu all looked at this freak helplessly. Under such terrifying heat, he was actually completely fine and could walk freely. This was too exaggerated. Don't worry. There should be an oasis a few dozen li away from here. At that time, we'll be able to find a place to hide from the sun. Xia Ping said with a smile. What? Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu all looked at Xia Ping in shock. How did you know? They couldn't understand, because this was the first time they had come to the wild sand ruins. They didn't know anything about this place. Even if there was a safer place to hide from the sun, no one knew. But this guy actually knew. Just follow me. Xia Ping didn't explain. This was actually the effect of the 10,000-mile tracking technique he cultivated. Through this secret technique, he could use the various smells in the air to track his enemies. Chapter 246. But after walking for 2 to 3 hours, Xia Ping and the others finally saw a boundless lake after running for more than 100 kilometers. Immediately, fresh air and a cool breeze blew over. It was clear that this place was 20 to 30 degrees lower than other places. It was a place suitable for humans to live. A dense forest grew beside the lake. Towering trees took root on the ground, and weeds grew everywhere. It was full of greenery and vitality. Great, we've finally arrived at this desert oasis. I thought we were dead for sure. Who would have thought we'd come back from the dead? I thought that bastard Xia Ping led us on the wrong path. Luckily, we didn't. Seeing the lake appear in front of them, Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, Nangong Wu, and Feng Hetong were all incomparably excited. After running for 3 hours, they were panting like cows and sweating profusely. If it weren't for their powerful martial arts cultivation, they would have long fainted under the intense heat. After all, none of them were like a freak like Xia Ping, who was completely fine in this kind of environment. Not even a drop of sweat appeared on his body. Xia Ping was also helpless. After all, his 10,000-mile tracking technique was very powerful, but it wasn't perfect. Separated by such a long distance, there were still errors in his perception. Originally, they thought it was only a few dozen kilometers. Who would have thought that it was more than 100 kilometers? They desperately ran for 3 hours to reach this life oasis. I'm dying of thirst, I want to drink water. Feng Hetong cried out. He immediately wanted to jump into the lake and drink a large amount of water. Jiang Yaru and the others also wanted to drink water, and even wanted to take a bath. They were sweating so much that their clothes were sticking together, making them uncomfortable all over. Stop! Suddenly, a few dozen people appeared in the forest in front of them, stopping Feng Hetong in an instant. These people all had powerful blood and qi. They all had the strength of a martial artist. The strongest was at the 3rd layer of the martial artist realm. However, Xia Ping and the others had never seen these people before. They might be examinees from other continents. Who are you people? Feng Hetong stared blankly at these examinees who suddenly appeared. A tall man dressed in black stood out and stared at Xia Ping and the others with an arrogant expression. We are candidates from Jizhou District's Hengang City. Which district are you from? The eyes of Jiang Yaru and the others flickered. Hengang City was the capital of the Jizhou region. It was equivalent to the Yangzhou region's Huajing City. In terms of economy, Hengang City was even stronger. Because it is an industrial super city, there are many super factories built in the city. On Yanhuang Star, the size of this city is also very small, with a population of 1.3 billion. They also knew that the examinees were from other continents, but they had already separated long ago. They didn't expect to bump into each other so soon. We're from Yangzhou District. Feng Hetong said honestly. Yangzhou District? It's the continent that's ranked in the bottom 3 in terms of martial strength. It's said that there aren't many capable people from that continent. According to the intelligence analysis, the strongest examinee from Yangzhou District is that Su family's Su Yuntian. The rest are all mediocre. There's nothing to say. They're just a bunch of trash. Just look at these people. There are actually only 2 martial artists. The other 3 are all martial artists at the 9th layer of the martial artist realm. In our Jizhou district, those without martial artists wouldn't even dare to sign up. These people have the face to apply for Yanhuang University. Aren't they afraid of death? You can't say that. These girls look pretty good. Our Jizhou district is full of uncouth men. We've never seen such beautiful girls before. Yangzhou district's women are a bit better, but there aren't many men who are good. A group of Jizhou examinees roared with laughter, sizing up Xiaoping and the others without the slightest scruple. Some even looked at Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu lecherously, harboring malicious intentions. Xiaoping and Feng Hetang's faces were very dark. They could clearly see that these people were full of hostility towards them. These examinees from Jizhou district weren't people who were easy to talk to. Scram! The tall black-clothed examinee sneered. This oasis is our Jizhou district's territory. This lake is also our Jizhou district's. It's all been taken over by us. Without our permission, no one can go in. Of course, if you want to enter this oasis and come here to drink water, it's not impossible for you girls to accompany us to sleep. He laughed wildly. The other examinees from Jizhou district also laughed, looking at Xiaoping and the others mockingly. These bastards! Jiang Yaru was very angry, staring at these examinees from Jizhou district. This lake is the wild sand ruins, not your Jizhou district's. Why are you occupying it? Chu Rong was also very angry. This was probably the only oasis within 100 miles. If they were driven away by this group of examinees from Jizhou district, they would probably die of thirst. They wouldn't be able to find a place to survive in a short period of time. Nangong Wu's face was also very gloomy. Why are we occupying it? Because of our strength. The black-clothed examinee sneered again and again. I said this is our territory, so it's our territory. If you dare to come in, you're courting death. If you dare to act rashly, I'll take your lives. The other examinees from Jizhou district also sneered at Xiaoping and the others. Although these girls were very beautiful, they also knew the severity of the situation. In this harsh environment, survival was the most important thing. Who knew how many people this oasis could hold, how much food it could have, how much water it could obtain? The more people there were competing, the lower their chances of survival. So, from the beginning, they eliminated all competitors, not allowing anyone to step into this place. You guys! Feng Hetang was very angry, and immediately wanted to flip out. But Xiaoping stopped him, and indifferently said to the group of examinees, I advise you guys to leave this place as soon as possible. The water here can't be drunk, you'll die. What? Jiang Yaru and the others all looked at Xiaoping. They knew that Xiaoping's words were definitely not without reason. People will die. You pretty boy only know how to bluff people. The lake water here is very clear, the visibility is very high, and there are even fish swimming around. You say that drinking this water will kill people? May I ask how we'll die? It's simply ridiculous. I reckon this brat thinks that by scaring us a few times, we'll let them into this oasis? He's crazy. Hurry up and scram for me. Even if we die here, you guys can't come in. The Jizhou examinees all looked at Xiaoping with contempt. They did not believe his words at all. They thought that Xiaoping was talking big to scare them. He was clearly talking big to scare them. Since that's the case, I wish you guys good luck. Chapter 247. Don't worry about them. You guys go get some water. The black-clothed candidate sneered at Xiaoping and the others. He ordered the people around him to go get some water. They had also traveled a long way to reach this oasis. They had long been hungry and cold, and who knew how thirsty they were. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, 20 to 30 people set off towards the lake, while the remaining people stared at Xiaoping and the others like tigers watching their prey, guarding against any sneak attacks. Xiaoping, you said the water in this lake can't be drunk. Is it poisonous? Jiang Yaru asked in a low voice. Chu Rong, Nangong Wu, and Feng Hatang also looked at Xia Ping nervously. If the water here was poisonous, then where would they go to find clean water? After a while, wouldn't they die of thirst? The water isn't poisonous, but there's something even more terrifying than poison in the lake. Xia Ping's eyes flashed with a cold light. He could smell the dangerous smell coming from the lake. Although the lake seemed to be very quiet and peaceful, it was actually the most dangerous place. If one was careless, even a martial warrior realm expert would die there. Just what is it? Jiang Yaru asked curiously. Xia Ping looked ahead. You'll know soon enough. Let's see what happens to them. At this time, a group of candidates from the Jizhou district had already approached the lake. Although they were arrogant and thought Xia Ping was just scaring them, they were actually very cautious and approached carefully. As soon as there was any sign of trouble, they would immediately slip away. Fuck, I was almost scared by that pretty boy from the Yangzhou district. Isn't he fine now? Indeed. Indeed. How could something big happen in such a calm lake? The lake is too clear. This is simply a gift from nature. Who would have thought such a treasure would appear in such a dangerous environment? I guess this is a chance for us from Yanhuang University. Once we find this place, we can live safely here. After a month, we'll be students of Yanhuang University. Hee, right now I just want to rush down and take a good bath. After being exposed to the sun for 3 days, I've long since gone crazy. I don't even know how many kilograms of sweat I've lost. After a group of Jizhou examinees approached, they looked around and found that the lake was still calm, and there were fish swimming around. It was very peaceful and abundant. As long as they took the water here and slaughtered the fish here, they would have enough food and water. Immediately, a few examinees walked into the lake excitedly, gulping down large mouthfuls of water. There were also some examinees who jumped into the lake and bathed contentedly. They swam around and chased away the schools of fish, appearing very carefree. Seeing this situation, the black-robed examinee and the others instantly felt relieved. This lake was indeed fine. Everything was just that pretty boy Yang Zhoutsu trying to scare them. Ah! At this instant, the 2 or 3 examinees who were drinking water earlier suddenly let out shrill cries of agony. They felt as though their stomachs were on fire, and there were countless creatures in their stomachs. Help, help! There are worms in my stomach, worms! They're tearing my intestines and devouring my flesh. Help! The 3 examinees screamed again and again, bleeding from their 7 orifices. A large amount of blood flowed from their mouths and nostrils. They fell to the ground and rolled frantically. Some people just wanted to go up and save them, but with a bang, their stomachs were cut open, and a fist-sized parasite instantly crawled out of their stomachs. Its whole body was covered in blood, making people shudder. Immediately, the 3 examinees died tragically on the spot, with a big hole in their stomachs and blood splattering everywhere. This scene also caused the surrounding examinees to scream, their faces pale. Damn, there's something coming out of the lake, run. Some examinees were horrified. He saw that the originally calm lake, because of the death of the 3 examinees, was filled with blood. It seemed to have triggered a certain taboo in the lake, opening Pandora's box. A black thing, like a cloud, immediately swam up from the bottom of the lake, and in an instant, it surrounded the 5 or 6 examinees who were still swimming. Help! The 5 or 6 examinees went crazy and wanted to escape, but it was too late. They were surrounded by that group of terrifying creatures, and in an instant, their whole bodies were dragged to the bottom of the lake and devoured until not even their bones were left. Rumble! This group of creatures even crawled out from the bottom of the lake. They were so densely packed that their numbers were even more terrifying than ants. They were covered in blood-red armor with strange patterns, and they were the size of a fist, numbering in the tens of thousands. These are poisonous desert scorpions. Nangong Wu immediately recognized the name of these creatures. These were poisonous scorpions that lived in the desert. After undergoing genetic mutation, they possessed extremely terrifying venom. Once they hit a human, they would be poisoned to death within a few breaths. Moreover, they were covered in blood-red armor that was as hard as steel. Ordinary methods would not be able to break through the defense of these monsters. The most terrifying thing was that they were numerous and liked to move in groups. If the desert rats were said to be the cleaners of the desert, then these poisonous desert scorpions were basically the gods of death. Once one came into contact with them, there would definitely be a 90% chance of survival. Scram, scram for me. An examinee neared the lake, and his expression changed greatly. He used his fists and legs and punched out, exploding forth with a strength of 10,000 Jin, sending a few poisonous desert scorpions flying. But it was useless. Immediately, over 10 poisonous desert scorpions jumped out from the side, and in an instant, they bit this examinee lightly. Ah! The examinee screamed. He clutched his injured arm in horror. It was just a small wound, but it contained a fatal venom. Like a venomous snake, it instantly invaded his entire body through his blood vessels. Immediately, his face darkened like charcoal. With a puff, he spat out black blood and fell to the ground, twitching. In a few breaths, he was no longer breathing. Clearly, the venom had attacked his heart and he was dead. Help, help! Boss, save us, save us! I regret it so much. Why did I stupidly come here to drink water? Save me, hurry up and save us, or else I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. The group of examinees from the Jizhou district who were heading towards the lake screamed madly, their faces pale. They regretted so much that their intestines turned green. If they had listened to Xia Ping and not gone, perhaps they would not have died. But now, they were finished. They could not even escape. In the distance, the black-cloaked examinees and the others were also scared half to death. Even if they wanted to go forward and save them, when they saw the dense, overwhelming number of poisonous desert scorpions that covered the sky like a bloody mist, they did not have the slightest bit of courage in their hearts. Chapter 248. Run! Seeing the candidates die, the black-cloaked candidates and the others ran for their lives. Their faces were pale, and they wished their parents could give them more legs. They no longer had that arrogant and despotic attitude from before. Once the scorpions caught up to them, they were dead for sure. They'd definitely become corpses. In a few breaths, the group of people ran to the edge of the desert oasis and arrived beside Xia Ping's group. They were temporarily out of the attack range of the scorpions. I didn't think that the water in the lake was really undrinkable. There are parasites in it. Jiang Yaru was also shocked by the deaths of the candidates. They'd just drunk a mouthful of water, and they'd already died. One had to know that the candidates were all martial warriors with powerful constitutions. But even they couldn't withstand it. There's nothing we can do. The environment of the ruins is too harsh. Any creature that can survive in this place must have a tenacious life force. Otherwise, it'd be impossible for them to survive. Nangong Wu's expression was also grave. She also thought of a problem. If there were terrifying parasites in the lake and they couldn't drink it, then where should they go to drink it? Were they going to die of thirst? Luckily we didn't go to the lake to drink, or we'd definitely be dead too. Chu Rong was very glad. If it weren't for those scapegoats from Jizhou, they'd probably be dead as well. Isn't that right? Feng Hetong looked at the black-cloaked candidates with disdain. Big Bro already said that the water in the lake can't be drunk. We kindly reminded them, but they didn't believe us. They even came here to act tough, saying that we were just scaring them. Look at us now. Weren't we just scaring them? They really don't know how to appreciate our good intentions. In this day and age, how many good people like us are there? They actually don't know how to cherish us. If a few people don't die, they won't know what's good for them. It's hard to be a good person these days. He looked as if he was deeply grieved. This damned fatty. When the black-clothed candidates heard this, half their faces turned green. They looked at Xia Ping and the others as if they wanted to eat them alive. They were already in such a miserable state. They'd already lost a third of their people. But these bastards were still mocking and ridiculing him. They were shameless to the extreme. You can't say that. Xia Ping faintly said, he is the ruler of this oasis, the local overlord. He even threatened us, saying that whoever dared to enter this oasis would die. How domineering, how arrogant, how powerful, simply putting everyone else in his eyes. It's normal for such a person to not listen to us. After all, our Yangzhou district's candidates are very weak and can't be compared to these Jizhou district's people at all. They're not on the same level. He stood with his hands behind his back and spoke in a tone that could infuriate people to death. Big brother, you're right. It's my fault. Feng Hatong nodded like he was pounding garlic. The candidates from Jizhou district are indeed extraordinary. How can we compare to them? Even their escape postures are superior, very graceful. It's a pity that those desert scorpions don't know what's good for them. They don't even recognize the oasis overlords of the Jizhou students. They even dare to act tyrannically and drive away the oasis overlords. Damn it! His tone was filled with hatred. Barren mountains and unruly rivers produce unruly people. Those desert scorpions are unruly people. They act tyrannically all day long, bringing disaster to their neighbors. They don't even recognize the owner of the oasis. It's very hateful. Xia Ping said angrily. Feng Hatong suddenly became furious. Isn't this a rebellion? How could they not be executed immediately? Their 9 generations should be exterminated. Why are these people running so fast? It's as if they can't wait for their parents to give them more legs. What do you know? This is a strategic retreat. When the Jizhou army arrives, won't these desert scorpions all be frightened out of their wits? They'll run at the sight of the wind and piss their pants. Big brother is big brother, seeing through the truth of the matter at a glance. I'm stupid and didn't see the meaning of escaping. That's why you have to learn. The water is deep. The two of them spoke one after the other. The corners of Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu's mouths twitched. These two fellas' mouths were too poisonous. They were still mocking the Jizhou examinees. It was simply infuriating. Everyone would probably want to beat these two up. These two bitches. The group of Jizhou students went crazy with anger. All of them clenched their fists, blue veins popping out. The remaining half of their faces were green. Smoke was coming out of their nostrils, and their lungs were about to explode. Seeing so many of them die, it was one thing if these two bitches didn't lament or sympathize with them. But they actually mocked them to their faces like this. These two bitches deserved to die 1,000 times. They had no humanity at all. If it wasn't for the fact that the desert scorpions were about to attack, they probably would have flipped out on the spot. What are you looking at? Feng Hatong shouted. You don't have any ability. You only know how to act all day, pretending to be all-powerful. Once the desert scorpions come out, you guys are scared. Get out without stopping. This time's matter is to teach you guys a lesson. In the future, keep a low profile. Don't think you're so great all day. Remember, if my big brother doesn't say anything, you guys can't say anything. He looked at the group of Jizhou students arrogantly. Damn fatty. The black-clothed students' noses were crooked from anger. Some of them couldn't hold it in anymore. They wanted to rush up and give this guy a good beating. They couldn't care less about the desert scorpions in front of them. If they didn't give these two bitches a good beating, they wouldn't be able to vent their anger. Rumble, but at this moment, a violent tremor came from the desert in the distance. It rolled up the sand, covering the sky and covering the earth. A bloody mist filled the sky. Scorpions crawled out from the depths of the desert, densely packed together. What's going on? Why are there scorpions on the other side of the desert? How can this be? One of the students cried out in fear. The scorpions on the other side of the lake were attacking, and there were scorpions from the desert behind them. A pincer attack from the front and back. This was cutting off their path of retreat. If they were surrounded by these scorpions, they would definitely die without a grave. At this moment, the Jizhou students no longer had any thoughts of finding trouble with Xiaoping and the others. If they didn't escape the encirclement of the desert scorpions, they were dead for sure. Oh no! The expressions of Jiang Yaru and the others also changed. Their hairs stood on end. They also felt a strong sense of danger. Trying to break out of the encirclement of these desert scorpions was too difficult. These were scorpions. Different from the desert rats from before, these creatures were highly toxic. If they were the slightest bit careless and got cut open, they would immediately be poisoned to death. Charge out, into the oasis. Xia Ping made a prompt decision and immediately shouted. Right now, they were being attacked from both the front and the back by the desert scorpions. Only by rushing into the depths of the oasis would they have a chance of survival. Otherwise, if they stayed here, they would only become food for these scorpions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Chapter 249. We'll follow too. The candidates in black clenched their teeth. They were out of their wits and could only follow Xia Ping's group. Otherwise, staying here would only mean death. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, the group rushed into the oasis. The oasis was densely packed with trees. Some were even towering trees that were hundreds of meters tall. Entering the forest was like entering a kingdom of giants. Speaking of which, it was strange. When the examinees charged into the oasis, the group of desert scorpions seemed to have reached the edge of the oasis and stopped moving forward. While one by one, they stopped at the edge of the forest, almost surrounding the entire area. They were as vast as the tide, but even with such power, they didn't dare to enter. It was as if they were afraid of something and didn't dare to enter. They kept pacing around the area. Great! The desert scorpions don't dare to enter. Seeing this, one of the candidates was overjoyed. Being chased by the scorpions had scared him out of his wits. Now that the scorpions couldn't enter the forest, he was overjoyed. Strange. Why don't the desert scorpions dare to enter? Another candidate asked. Someone shouted, do you need to ask? If it's not because there are natural predators in the forest, then there are even more terrifying creatures in the forest. What? Hearing this, the expressions of all the candidates present changed drastically. Putting aside the question of whether there were any natural enemies of the desert scorpion in the forest, just based on the fact that such a dangerous environment existed, no one would believe that there were no terrifying creatures in the forest. Some of the candidates trembled. They'd just left the wolf's den, and now they had to enter the tiger's den. Big brother. Feng Hatong looked at Xia Ping nervously. He could also feel that the atmosphere in the forest was a bit strange, as if there were many terrifying beasts hibernating. Chu Rong, Jiang Yaru, and Nangong Wu also looked at Xia Ping. Just follow me. Xia Ping waved his hand. He could indeed sense the aura of powerful beasts in the air. Each one was incomparably ferocious. There might even be a martial master-level beast hidden in the depths of the forest. If they encountered such a beast, no matter how many of them went, they wouldn't be able to take a bite. Luckily, he knew the 10,000-mile tracking technique. He could distinguish the scents in the air and sense where the danger was and where the safest place was. Whoosh! His movements were agile as he headed northeast. Jiang Yaru and the rest quickly followed without the slightest hesitation. What should we do? Someone looked at the black-clothed candidate hesitantly. This was because the black-clothed candidate was their leader. Moreover, he was roaming around in this dangerous forest. It probably wasn't a good thing. That brat is a little strange. Maybe he has some special survival skills. Let's follow him. The black-clothed candidate's eyes flickered with a shrewd light. He wanted to follow Xia Ping. The others also nodded. That pretty boy Yang Zhoutsu was indeed a little strange. He clearly did not go near the lake, but he knew that there was a problem with the water there. If he didn't know about this beforehand, then he must have sensed that something was wrong and had a special ability. No matter what it was, there was absolutely no harm in following that kid. It was better than them running around like headless flies. If they ran into a powerful monster's nest, they would be finished. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, the candidates from the Jizhou district moved quickly and immediately followed, chasing closely, for fear that if they were a step behind, they would lose track of Xiaoping and the others. Big brother, those people are following us. Feng Hetang noticed the actions of the Jizhou students. Xiaoping indifferently said, "Don't mind them." After the incident just now, many of these people had died. Now there were only 20 or so people left. To him, this wasn't much of a threat. But, big brother, where are we going? We've already walked for a few hours. We're thirsty and tired. If we continue like this, we're dead for sure. Feng Hetang said helplessly. If it wasn't for the fact that he was in a life and death crisis, he would have immediately laid down and slept. Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu were the same. Although their physiques were stronger than Feng Hetang's, it wasn't by much. Collapsing on the ground from exhaustion was only a matter of time. It's okay. I can smell food. Just follow me. Xia Ping faintly smiled. In this kind of forest, resources were abundant. Having food wasn't strange at all. Really? Hearing this, not only Feng Hetang, but even Jiang Yaru and the others were excited. Xia Ping smiled, "It's not far, about half an hour." All right. Jiang Yaru and the others were in high spirits. They followed Xia Ping at full speed. As long as there was food, they could revive. We're here. After running for half an hour, turning left and right in the forest, passing through towering trees and green vines, they also encountered some monsters. However, they weren't strong and were easily dealt with by Xiaoping and the others. As for the Jizhou students, although they didn't understand why Xiaoping and the others were heading in this direction, they still chased after them without the slightest intention of giving up. We're here. Hearing Xiaoping's words, Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, Nangong Wu, and Feng Hetang immediately raised their heads and looked in front of them. They immediately saw a towering tree that was over 100 meters tall. However, this wasn't an ordinary tree. Growing on its branches were fruits the size of watermelons, heavy and heavy. Moreover, these weren't ordinary fruits either. They looked like gemstones, sparkling and translucent. Under the sunlight, they sparkled like the most precious diamond in the world. The air was filled with a fragrant smell. This was the smell of meat. It was enough to arouse the desire in the depths of the human body. They couldn't help but salivate and their stomachs rumbled. Oh my God, isn't this the tree of precious meat? In this wild sand ruins, in this forest, there's actually such a rare tree. Some of the Jizhou students immediately exclaimed in shock. Some people didn't understand. What's a tree of precious meat? Stupid, haven't you learned the illustrated handbook of wondrous objects on planet Yanhuang? The student was exasperated. This tree of precious meat is a kind of rare tree. It grows by absorbing nutrients from the earth and the flesh and blood essence of countless monsters. The fruit it grows is called the gem fruit. This gem fruit isn't an ordinary fruit. It's made up of meat. The flesh contains the best meat in the world. It contains a large amount of life energy and is infinitely beneficial to the human body. It's who knows how many times better than monster meat. This kind of gem fruit is worth 10 million federal coins per caddy. It's the world's most precious treasure. It's a treasure that can't be bought with money. It's priceless. In the black market, it can even be sold for 50 million federal coins per caddy. As long as we eat this kind of gem fruit, we can probably easily replenish our energy for a day. It can even enhance our martial arts cultivation. It's no less than a great supplement. Chapter 250. Looks like this kid does have some tricks up his sleeve. To be able to find a tree of treasured meat in such a huge forest is no easy feat. A candidate from the Jizhou region stared at Xiaoping and the others with a glint in his eyes. It's just an unorthodox method. In the end, a true martial artist is still determined by their martial strength. Everything else is meaningless. The candidate in black laughed coldly and stared at Xiaoping with a gloomy expression. However, he didn't show it on his face. He just watched from the side, but his mind was filled with all sorts of evil schemes. Big brother, you're too awesome. Feng Hetong was overjoyed and shouted, if you can even find a tree like the tree of treasured meat, what else can't you do? With these gemstone fruits, we won't have to worry about hunger anymore. Jiang Yaru and the others were also overjoyed. They wanted to immediately get their hands on these gemstone fruits and have a feast. Don't rush. Xia Ping waved his hand to stop them. He stared at the tree of treasured meat and didn't act rashly. Big brother, is there danger in there? Feng Hetong swallowed his saliva. He suddenly remembered what had happened at the lake. That incident still left a lingering fear in his heart. Xia Ping didn't say anything. He found a watermelon-sized rock on the ground and threw it over with a whoosh. Just as the rock was about to hit the tree of treasured meat, 2 or 3 nearby trees covered in thorns immediately shook. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, dozens of thorns erupted from these trees. Each thorn was as hard as steel and incomparably sharp. They tore through the air with an ear-piercing sound. With a bang, the watermelon-sized rock was hit by the thorns and was instantly torn to pieces. It fell to the ground and scattered everywhere. This scene made one's hair stand on end, and a chill ran down the soles of their feet. This. Feng Hetong was dumbfounded. He didn't think that stepping on the gemstone fruits would be so dangerous. If he had rashly stepped in, his whole body would have been turned into a beehive. The candidate in black and the others were also shocked. Fortunately, they had learned their lesson. Even though they knew there was a treasure in front of them, they didn't act rashly. Otherwise, they would have suffered many casualties. That's a thorn tree. Nangong Wu said in a deep voice, this is a strange tree that coexists with the precious meat tree. It's equivalent to a guard. Any creature that dares to approach the precious meat tree to pick its fruits will be shot to death by the thorns. It's said that this is one of the treasure meat tree's methods of hunting. It uses the fragrance of its fruits to attract monsters over, and then they will fall into the trap and be killed by the thorn tree. The flesh and blood left behind by the dead monsters will seep into the earth and become nutrients for the precious meat tree. It can be said that this is a man-eating tree. It is extremely dangerous. What? Feng Hetong was dumbfounded. There are hundreds of thorn trees around here. If these strange trees burst out at the same time and shoot out thorns, it would be like a laser gun. Even a martial warrior would be shot into a beehive. If that's the case, how are we going to pick these treasure flesh fruits? He looked around and saw that the tree of treasured meat was surrounded by thorny trees. These strange trees were like loyal guards protecting the surroundings. Once they got close to their alert range, they would be killed by the thorns in an instant. Moreover, these thorns were extremely terrifying. The speed at which they shot out was no less than a bullet. If an ordinary martial artist stepped into this range and was shot randomly, they would probably die without a doubt. This is simply the moon in the water, the flower in the mist, how are we going to pick it? The examinees from Jizhou district were also stunned. There was clearly food in front of them, but they couldn't get it. There was nothing more depressing than this. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu all looked at Xia Ping. If there was anyone present who could pick this fruit, it would probably be Xia Ping. Leave it to me. Xia Ping looked at the trees in front of him indifferently. Although these thorny trees were very powerful, they couldn't break through the defense of his northern dark body protection technique. He even knew Kuan Ping steps. Once he used this step, those thorns couldn't get close to him. He was fearless. Whoosh! In an instant, Xia Ping walked forward and stepped into the defense range of the thorny trees. Rumbles suddenly, hundreds of thorny trees were shaking wildly, as if they were enraged. They didn't expect that a creature would be so bold and dare to break into their territory. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In a few breaths, hundreds of black streamers appeared, tearing through the air, producing a sound of breaking through the air, and blasting towards Xiaoping. There was almost no gap, and they wanted to beat Xiaoping into a beehive. However, Xiaoping was unmoved, as if he was strolling leisurely. His feet took a strange step, his body seemed to be equipped with the wings of Kunpeng, and many figures of Xiaoping appeared on the ground. Bang bang bang! The thorns that were shot fell into the air and smashed into the open ground, creating a terrifying deep pit. The soil splashed, and the ground shook and roared. Huge rocks weighing hundreds of tons were also hit and shattered in an instant. The gravel was like bullets, scattering in all directions, and the smoke and dust billowed. Trees that were hundreds of meters high and could only be hugged by 5 or 6 people were hit. The whole tree broke and collapsed from a high place. It was like a storm, sweeping around, and the ground was in a mess. Big Brother is too strong. Once the only expert in this group was killed, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted to these women and this damn fatty? He had already calculated everything. Xia Ping. Seeing this, Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu couldn't help but cry out. They wanted nothing more than to rush in to help, but it was already too late. Moreover, they were too far away. The arrows were so fast that it was impossible for them to catch up. By the time they charged in, the arrows would have already pierced through Xia Ping's body. Boom! At this moment, there was an explosion in midair. More than a dozen arrows ruthlessly bombarded Xia Ping's body. Hundreds of thorns also attacked at the same time. Immediately, the air vibrated and the earth cracked. In an instant, a huge pit appeared in the ground. Smoke and dust billowed, and more than a dozen shocking cracks appeared on the ground, extending for hundreds of meters. What? How could this be? When the smoke and dust dissipated, the black-clothed candidate and the others saw the scene at the Tree of Precious Flesh. Their expressions changed and they stared in front of them, as if they couldn't believe their eyes. This was because Xia Ping, who had been shot full of holes and could not be more dead, was still standing in the same place, alive and well. As for the arrows and the hundreds of thorny thorns, they were all shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. The brat's skin wasn't even scratched by them. How is this possible? An archer went crazy. This is my full blow. Even an expert in the third heaven of the martial warrior realm can be killed. It pierced through the heart in an instant, but he is actually fine. He didn't even get a scratch on his skin. Is he a monster? Hundreds of thorns, each comparable to a sniper bullet with infinite power. Even the rocks were smashed into pieces. This kid took this blow head-on and is actually fine. What kind of body refining technique did he cultivate? Could it be that this guy has an indestructible body and is a martial arts master? Monster, this kid is simply a monster. If even this can't kill him, who else can kill him? Could it be that this guy is the top genius of Yangzhou district, Su Yuntian? He has already reached the fourth heaven of the martial warrior realm. No, I have seen Su Yuntian before. He doesn't look like this. Yangzhou district is just an ordinary continent. How can such a monstrous genius appear? All the candidates in Jizhou district were shocked and dumbfounded. They thought that in the face of such an attack, there was absolutely no reason for this kid to survive. But now, not only was he still alive, he was even unharmed. How could they accept such a reality? Damn it! The black-clothed examinee's face was ugly to the extreme, and he couldn't help clenching his fists. If such a method couldn't kill this monster, then what else could he do to kill him? Great! Seeing that Xia Ping was still alive and well, Jiang Yaru and others were overjoyed. This is normal. According to the defensive power of Xia Ping's Dark North body protection technique, even a full blow from the fourth heaven of the martial warrior realm can't cause any harm to him. The attack of these arrows is just like scratching an itch. How can it kill him? You are courting death. Xia Ping's eyes showed anger. Although he had been vigilant against this group of people, he did not expect that these guys would dare to kill him when he was picking the gem fruit. Pinching persimmons is looking for a soft one to pinch. It is estimated that this group of Jizhou district candidates really regard him as a soft persimmon. If he doesn't show his power and a few people die, no one will take him seriously. In an instant, Xia Ping grabbed a 30-centimeter long steel thorn on the ground, stood on the ground with his feet deeply stuck in the ground, and a tyrannical and unparalleled true qi poured into his right hand. Phew! Just like that, it smashed out. This steel thorn is like a spear, piercing the air, with a fierce rotation, and in a breath, it has crossed hundreds of meters. No, no, no! An archer closest to Xia Ping screamed in horror. His pupils shrank, his hair stood up, and he tried to escape, but it was too late. Dong! In an instant, this steel thorn pierced his head, and his head exploded like a watermelon. Even this steel thorn penetrated his head, and 2 or 3 Jizhou candidates behind him were unable to avoid it, and their bodies were pierced, like a string of gourds, and finally penetrated a big tree before being nailed to a rock. Chapter 252. This. Seeing that Xia Ping had killed 4 people in an instant, the candidates from the Jizhou district were all frightened, as if they had fallen into an ice cave. A chill rose from the soles of their feet, and their whole body was trembling. They felt that they had provoked an incredible monster, and this was like touching a hornet's nest. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Kill him, shoot him immediately. If he doesn't die, we will die. Do you understand? The black-clothed candidate roared and shouted angrily at his companions around him. Suddenly, those companions seemed to wake up from a dream. Indeed, if they did not kill Xia Ping here, then when the monster rushed in front of them, wouldn't they be dead? Stubborn. Xia Ping's eyes revealed a glimmer of cold light, and he threw the 2 gem fruits on the ground. With a bang, his feet stepped on the ground, and in an instant, 2 huge deep pits appeared. With a cracking sound, 5 or 6 cracks spread out, extending for hundreds of meters. The surrounding trees collapsed, and the ground shook and roared. Boom! In just an instant, Xia Ping's feet produced a terrifying propulsion force, and his whole body was like an ancient black bear, jumping in the air. A distance of hundreds of meters, just like that, he jumped over. His body was covered with true energy, tearing the wind, like a cannonball rushing over, carrying unparalleled power. Monster, this damn monster. He can't move in mid-air, this is an opportunity. Shoot him to death, immediately pull the bow and arrow and shoot him to death. A group of Jizhou students were terrified and roared. They did not expect Xia Ping to be so fierce and so terrifying. It was just a jump, but he crossed hundreds of meters in an instant. This kind of physical strength was terrifying. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, several archers took action. They drew their bows and nocked their arrows. Arrows containing destructive spiritual qi were shot towards Xia Ping's body with incomparable accuracy. The power of such a bow and arrow could even penetrate the body of a blood demon wolf. Bang bang bang. It was just that when these arrows hit Xia Ping's body, they were immediately blocked by the tyrannical true energy, and even came with a terrible shock force. All of a sudden, these arrows were shattered into pieces. Go to hell. Xia Ping was unstoppable, and he suddenly attacked, slapping his palm in midair. Myriad Beast's Fist, 3rd form, bear-splitting palm. Immediately, the palm in midair was like the attack of an ancient black bear, covering the sky and covering the sun. The surroundings were filled with a horrifying aura, and even the air became heavy and incomparably oppressive. Boom! A palm descended from the sky. It was incomparably ferocious, carrying with it an extremely terrifying aura. True Qi vibrated, and with a few bangs, the archers in front were bombarded by the huge palm. Awe! All of them let out shrill screams as they were smashed to the ground like ants. They were unable to struggle at all. A huge, palm-deep pit with a diameter of 5 meters was created. The 3 or 4 archers were smashed into the deep crater by the gigantic palm. Their bones were shattered, and their lungs were heavily injured. They were slapped to death just like that, and they didn't even look human anymore. After killing 4 people with one palm, Xiaoping landed on the ground and looked around disdainfully. A group of Jizhou students were shocked. Such a terrifying power, they simply could not match. It was a bit too strong. Attack! Attack together! Hack him to death! Hack him to death! The black-clothed examinee went crazy and screamed wildly. His heart was already filled with fear. Even if they were outnumbered, there was no sense of security. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, 5 or 6 Jizhou students immediately moved, took out their sharp long knives, from different directions, rushed over, so that a knife slashed fiercely, containing a powerful force. But Xiaoping didn't move at all, and let these examinees' broadswords hit him. These long knives bombarded Xiaoping's body and were blocked by a layer of true qi. Dark North Body Protecting Technique was launched, and the tyrannical power of the shock was transmitted back again. Immediately, these long knives broke inch by inch, and even this terrible force was transmitted along the long knife inch by inch. The air vibrated, and finally passed to the depths of the bodies of these Jizhou students. Bang bang bang! The 5 or 6 examinees screamed and were shocked to fly out by this force. Their lungs were shattered in mid-air, and they spat out blood and fell to the ground dead. No, 5 or 6 people attacked him. This kid is nothing, but all our people died? Monster, this is definitely a monster, no matter how to kill him. If the knife can't kill him, what else can kill him? It's too abnormal. There's no chance of winning, there's no chance of winning at all. If we fight with this monster, we will definitely die. Run, if you don't run, you will die. Seeing this scene, the remaining Jizhou students were terrified to the extreme, because as soon as Xiaoping appeared, he immediately killed more than a dozen people and killed almost half of their companions without any effort. Every move contains the fierce power of a monster. Even if they are stupid, they know that if they continue to stay here and fight against this monster, they will definitely die. Even the attack on this guy has no effect. How can they fight? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Including the black-clothed examinees, these Jizhou students turned around and fled, fleeing in all directions, not daring to stay at all. This is simply the monkeys scatter when the tree falls. All of them are running faster than when they were chased by the desert scorpion just now. In the face of such a demon, they have long lost half of their courage. Want to run? Xiaoping's eyes revealed a trace of coldness, his aura rising steadily. With a swoosh, he grabbed a steel thorn that had fallen to the ground and tightly gripped it. A tyrannical force gushed out from his right hand, wrapping the steel thorn with true qi. Head-piercing 7 arrows, first form, piercing heart and bone. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the steel thorn flew out just like that, spinning wildly in mid-air, bringing along the surrounding airflow like a gale, accompanied by a sharp whistling sound. Jiang Yaru and the others couldn't help but cover their ears with their hands. Such a sharp sound was enough to shatter glass, like the terrifying vibration caused by a supersonic plane flying over. Dong! With such a blow, a Jizhou student who was running in front had no idea what was happening, only running away into the distance. But in the next second, the steel thorn immediately pierced his heart. His body stiffened, as if he had been nailed by an ancient divine spear, unable to escape. The steel thorn even pierced through the student, continuing forward. With a few bangs, it pierced through the bodies of 2 or 3 students, piercing their hearts. Chapter 253. Run, run away. This kid is a monster, a monster. Scatter, scatter immediately, break up into parts. Seeing 4 people killed in an instant, a group of Jizhou students were terrified to the extreme, fled in all directions, and did not dare to stay. They ran the secret arts in their bodies, displayed the peerless Qinggong, and tried to get away from Xiaoping's attack range. But how could they know the power of the 7 arrows technique? Even at a distance of 5 kilometers, Xiaoping could run his true qi and kill the enemy in an instant without resistance. Even if this group of people was more powerful, it was impossible for them to escape 5 kilometers in a few breaths. Xiao xiao xiao. Xiaoping picked up 3 or 4 thorns as hard as steel from the area near the precious meat tree, aimed at these fleeing Jizhou students, and mercilessly killed them. For these enemies who wanted to kill him, he would never be merciful. Ah ah ah. Immediately, the group of Jizhou students who tried to escape were hit at once. The thorns pierced their chests from the back, and blood splashed out, killing them. In a few breaths, they were killed 5 or 6 people. 2 of them were unlucky enough to stand together. As a result, they were pierced by a thorn and could not fight back at all. No, we can't escape. That bastard's hidden weapon technique is too powerful. Escaping is death. Let's fight with him. Even if we die, we will drag him down with us. Don't run. There's no way to escape now. With our backs to this guy, we are powerless to resist. This is simply a ruthless slaughter. Seeing another 5 or 6 people killed, a group of Jizhou students were frightened, but this inspired their courage to resist and tried to fight back. All of them gritted their teeth. If they continued to turn their backs to this demon, it would be a dead end. It was better to fight with him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, 5 or 6 Jizhou students became ruthless. Not only did they not escape, but they surrounded him from all directions, like cheetahs, and attacked Xiaoping. They believed that 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. No matter how powerful this kid was, how many people he could kill, as long as one of them could hit this kid, it would be enough to kill this pretty boy. Courting death. Xiaoping's eyes showed a trace of coldness, and he punched the 2 people in front of him. The vast and unparalleled power bombarded them, like a tiger, unstoppable. Bang bang. Immediately, the 2 people in front of him were hit by the fist. The fist was like a seal, and the true qi was like a tiger. In an instant, the fist pierced through their chests, and their hearts exploded in an instant. Their bodies were also sent flying, smashing into 5 or 6 trees in succession. Die! The 2 people behind him were unmoved. They shouted angrily and attacked from the sky. They slashed with their sabers, and a cold light flashed. It tore through the air and bombarded Xiaoping's back with several bangs, trying to cut him in half. But Xiaoping did not even look at it, operated the dark north body protecting technique, the tyrannical innate qi recoiled, a vast force passed over, and fiercely bombarded the 2 examinees. Ah! The 2 examinees cried out in agony. Their perlicues were numb from the impact, and their broadswords were shattered. Even their internal organs were heavily injured by this terrifying force. Xiaoping turned around and kicked. 2 footprints appeared in the air and kicked the 2 people. Immediately, the 2 people flew out and flew directly to the location of the precious meat tree. With a snort, hundreds of thorny trees nearby shook, and hundreds of thorns shot out and bombarded the 2 people. Immediately, their bodies turned into a beehive, and blood dripped on the ground. Monster! Seeing 2 people killed by a punch, and 2 people kicked to the side of the precious meat tree and shot to death by thorns, the remaining 2 people were scared to pee, turned around and ran, no longer having any courage. Kill! Xiaoping looked at the 2 people and let out a roar. The 3rd style of myriad beast's fist, lion roar. The terrifying sound wave came, condensing in the air, like a wave. This speed has reached the speed of sound. How can these 2 Jizhou examinees escape? With a bang, the 2 flew out and were shocked by the sound wave. They flew dozens of meters and finally fell to the ground, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Their hearts were shattered and they could not be more dead. Ha! A cold light flashed in Xiaoping's eyes. After a round of fighting, he had already killed all the Jizhou examinees. There was only one person left alive, and that was the leader of the group of Jizhou examinees, a young man dressed in black. He immediately realized that not only did this guy not escape, but he also did not try to attack him. Instead, he quickly moved in the direction of Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, and Nangong Wu. This guy was very smart. He knew that if he ran away, he would die. If he attacked Xia Ping, then his only chance of survival was to take Jiang Yaru and the others as hostages. In this way, Xia Ping did not dare to act rashly. Smart, but it's too slow. With a whoosh, Xia Ping took a step forward and circulated the true qi in his body to the extreme. In just an instant, he disappeared from where he stood. Kunpeng steps. This was the first time he was so fast. He was like a mythical Kunpeng, spreading his wings and flying high. At this moment, the air was no longer a hindrance, but a help. Countless streams of air wrapped around his body. His wings fluttered, and in the blink of an eye, he had crossed hundreds of meters. It was as if space itself did not exist. At this moment, Xia Ping truly felt the power of the Kunpeng steps. It was fast, incomparably fast. There was nothing in this world that could stop the Kunpeng steps. This kind of speed was enough to explore the heavenly court of the immortal world, and explore the depths of hell. How is this possible? The black-clothed examinee's expression was extremely sinister. Endless killing intent surged from his body. He wanted to grab Jiang Yaru and the others, but in the next second, he discovered that Xia Ping, who was hundreds of meters away, had suddenly disappeared and reappeared beside him. Immediately, he was so scared that he wet his pants. Impossible! How can he be so fast? Even if you beat him to death, he could not understand how Xia Ping could be so fast. It did not make sense at all. Bang! Xia Ping suddenly made a move, slapping the black-clothed candidate's face, sending him flying and smashing through 5 or 6 trees in a row. With a puff, the black-clothed examinee fell beside a huge boulder. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with fear, because Xia Ping had once again flown in front of him, not giving him any chance to escape. No, 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 don't kill me, don't kill me. The black-clothed examinee's body trembled. He immediately shouted in fear, "Do you know who my father is? Do you know what family I am from? If you kill me, my family will not let you go. They will definitely not let you go. Your parents, your relatives, they will all die, they will all die." Bang! Without waiting for the black-clothed examinee to finish speaking, Xia Ping punched out. The air trembled, and a faint dragon's roar could be heard. With a bang, the black-clothed examinee's head exploded like a watermelon, splitting into pieces and dying. Who is your father? Chapter 254. After killing these Jizhou candidates, Xia Ping also conveniently picked up all of their weapons. In total, there were 6 titanium alloy broadswords, 4 longbows, and a number of arrows. What kind of longbow is this? Xia Ping picked up one of the longbows. He carefully looked at it. It was completely black, streamlined, and engraved with mysterious inscriptions. Its whole body emitted a mysterious aura, and it was not on the same level as the other cold weapons. And on the body of the bow was engraved a few ancient characters, Moon Shooting Bow. He subconsciously grabbed the longbow and poured his qi into it. Immediately, the longbow immediately vibrated and buzzed. The inscriptions on the bow seemed to emit light, and a chilling aura filled the air, causing people to tremble. The surrounding temperature seemed to drop by more than 10 degrees in an instant. This treasured bow was obtained from the black-clothed candidate. What a mystical treasured bow! Xia Ping immediately knew that this was definitely an incredible weapon. Once he knocked an arrow, the power of the arrow would probably be more than 10 times that of an ordinary arrow. This was a great killing weapon. Oh my god, this is a treasured weapon. At this time, Nangong Wu walked over and saw the treasured bow in Xia Ping's hands. She immediately cried out in surprise, her beautiful eyes staring at the longbow as if she had seen something incredible. Chu Rong, Jiang Yaru, and Feng Hetang also walked over. Treasured weapon? Xia Ping blinked and looked at Nangong Wu. Nangong Wu immediately said, I also heard about this from my father. It is said that these weapons are all treasures excavated from ancient ruins. They are engraved with mysterious inscriptions, and for martial artists, they have a huge amplification effect. Once a martial artist uses such treasured weapons, they can even increase their combat strength by several times, or even 10 times. Therefore, treasured weapons like these are very precious and priceless. Even the most ordinary one is worth billions of federal coins, and some are even worth hundreds of billions. You can't buy them even if you have money. Chu Rong was also a little shocked. Really? It's just a weapon, but it can actually be worth billions, or even hundreds of billions. Isn't that a bit too exaggerated? No, it's not exaggerated at all. Nangong Wu shook her head. If a true expert were to obtain these treasures, the combat power they would be able to display is simply unimaginable. They would be able to easily slaughter an entire army. Even modern weapons would not be able to stop them. It is said that some treasured weapons possess mysterious powers. Once activated, even a nuclear bomb would not be able to kill them. They are invincible. She looked very serious and serious. Hearing this, Xia Ping picked up an arrow from the ground, knocked it, and slowly pulled the bowstring. He infused his true qi into the bow, and suddenly the bow vibrated, bursting out with a dazzling light. He immediately felt a tyrannical power brewing, and the genuine qi in his body was quickly consumed. Xiao! Immediately, an arrow shot out, tearing through the air. Its tail trembled and buzzed. In just a few breaths, the arrow had traveled 5 to 6 kilometers and fiercely bombarded a boulder that weighed tens of thousands of tons on a distant mountaintop. Bang! An explosion sounded out like a thunderclap. The huge rock immediately exploded and turned into dust. Countless pieces of rubble flew in all directions, and even the ground cracked. More than a dozen terrifying cracks appeared. So powerful! Seeing this scene, Nangong Wu and the others were dumbfounded. The arrow that was shot out 5 to 6 kilometers away actually had such power. It was comparable to an ordinary mortar. It is indeed extraordinary. Xia Ping clenched his fists. He could also feel the tyrannical power of the treasured bow. One shot of the arrow could probably even kill an expert in the fifth heaven of the martial artist realm. It would greatly increase his combat power. This time, he could be considered to have obtained an excellent treasure. It seems that this black-clothed candidate is not a simple person. To be able to let him bring a treasured weapon in, he probably has a strong background. Nangong Wu's expression was very serious. Although this treasured weapon was tyrannical, strictly speaking, it was also a cold weapon. Bringing it in was not against the rules. However, a family that had a treasure like a treasured weapon was incredible. Even in Huajing, there were probably not many families that had it. Even if they did, they would not dare to let a junior of the family bring it in. After all, if it was lost in the examination, it would be a great sin. The loss would be unimaginable. It's okay. So what if he knows? Can't we fight back if he wants to kill us? In the examination of Yanhuang University, even the most powerful family cannot interfere. Xia Ping did not care. In terms of background, who could be more powerful than the giant company? He had nothing to fear. That's true. Nangong Wu also nodded. She had to admit this point. This guy was different from her Nangong family. His identity was not ordinary, and he was not someone that any family could casually hurt. I'm a little hungry. Let's eat something first. Xia Ping once again returned to the precious meat tree and picked another 5 or 6 gemstone fruits. This time, he did not sneak up on them. It was very smooth. This is a gemstone fruit. Jiang Yaru blinked her beautiful eyes. Looking at the sparkling and translucent fruit, she could not help but exclaim, such a luxury item, I have only seen it in books. I never thought that I would actually have the chance to eat it. How lucky! Chu Rong also exclaimed. Nangong Wu and Feng Hetang also could not help but nod. Even though they had a powerful background and could be considered a big family, it was still very difficult to obtain a gemstone fruit. Such a precious fruit could not even be bought with money. Once it appeared, it would immediately be snatched up by the rich and powerful. It would not even appear on the market. Stop talking nonsense. Let's eat. Xia Ping immediately picked up a gemstone fruit and started eating. Immediately, he felt an incomparably delicious taste that stimulated his taste buds. He could feel that this was the combination of all the meat in the world. It was soft to the touch and melted in his mouth. Even the top-grade Kobe beef from his previous life could not compare to this. It was hard to imagine that this was just a fruit, and that it had grown out of a huge tree. Rumble. When the gemstone fruit was swallowed, a wave of energy gushed out from his stomach and circulated through his meridians. It was quickly converted into true qi, and his body felt as if it was boiling. What a dense energy! Even the meat of a top-grade monster could not compare to this. Xia Ping immediately understood why this gemstone fruit was so precious. It was priceless, and countless rich and powerful people would fight to buy it. Not only was it delicious, more importantly, it contained pure energy. Eating it was no less than eating a precious medicinal pill. It was extremely beneficial to martial artists. He immediately sat down cross-legged and began to circulate his skill to refine the energy of the gemstone fruit. In a few breaths, Xia Ping refined this energy. The true qi in his body seemed to have become stronger. It continuously filled up the true qi in his third acupoint, advancing towards the peak of the third sky of the fighter realm. After eating this gemstone fruit, it was equivalent to him cultivating for half a year. He felt that not only the true qi in his body, but even his strength and speed had become stronger. As long as they could eat one, they would become even more powerful. There was no creature that wouldn't go crazy. Run! Don't look back! Xia Ping shouted. Facing the pursuit of so many monsters, even he was a bit scared. If they weren't careful, they would be eaten by these monsters and become food in their stomachs. Okay. Jiang Yaru and the others all ran at full speed, not daring to stop. Fortunately, they had just advanced to the fighter realm, and their strength had greatly increased. Their stamina recovered, and their speed increased. Otherwise, these creatures would have caught up to them in a few breaths' time. After running for a full hour, they quickly followed Xia Ping and rushed out of the range of the desert oasis. This place seemed to be in another corner of the desert oasis, and it wasn't surrounded by the desert scorpions. Look, there's a dilapidated city up ahead. Jiang Yaru immediately pointed in front. In the vicinity of the desert oasis, a huge city appeared. A towering city wall surrounded it. It was tens of meters tall, and it stretched for who knew how long. And just like that, this city had suddenly appeared in the desert. However, this city seemed to be extremely dilapidated. There were broken walls everywhere, and sand and dust billowed. It was unknown how many years it had been since anyone came here. Even the city gate had disappeared. Go in! Xia Ping shouted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Jiang Yaru and the others didn't stop. They madly ran into the city. Chapter 256. We're finally safe. After entering the ancient city, Feng Hetang panted heavily when he saw that the monsters didn't follow him. He looked as if he had just survived a disaster. In reality, he was right. Being chased by so many monsters, he would be killed if he wasn't careful. His entire body was tense, and he didn't dare to relax. But there's actually such an ancient city here. Could it be that humans once lived here? Jiang Yaru looked around and found that the interior of the city extended in all directions. It was well planned, just like the layout of an ancient capital. In the distance, there were many simple and unadorned houses, but they weren't as prosperous as they used to be. Rocks were scattered everywhere, and the houses had collapsed. Some of the rocks had even been eroded by the wind. Who knew how long it had been since someone lived here? The walls were engraved with ancient runes that emitted a mysterious aura. Just what kind of civilization did this place belong to? There must be people living here, Nangongwu said. The chief examiner called this place a historical remnant. There must have been living creatures living here before, but they've all disappeared. I don't know if they've gone extinct or left. There are people living in such a harsh environment. Chu Rong's beautiful eyes widened. The temperature difference between day and night was too great. Ordinary humans living here would only be a dead end. They might not be humans. They might be living creatures of other races. Nangongwu's eyes flashed. Xia Ping rubbed his chin. Since this is a historical remnant, it means there's likely to be treasures here. Who knows, we might be able to find a treasure trove and become rich. He rubbed his palms together. He thought of the stories of people who entered the historical remnant and found large amounts of treasures, becoming rich overnight. You're dreaming, Jiang Yaru said. Jiang Yaru grumpily replied, but this ruin has already been explored by others. I'm guessing the government has already dug 3 feet deep into the ground. Everything has been taken clean. How could there be anything left for us? Chu Rong and Nangongwu nodded. This historical remnant had long been known by people. Perhaps it had been hundreds of years since they entered. Even if there really were any treasures here, they would have already been looted. But since there are living creatures living here, does that mean there are living facilities here? Perhaps we can find a place to drink water? Feng Hetang asked. This place does have the smell of water. Come with me. Xia Ping closed his eyes and used the 10,000-mile tracking technique to sense the surrounding air. With a whoosh, he immediately ran towards the east. Jiang Yaru and the others exchanged glances with each other. They were all overjoyed and quickly followed behind. They ran for more than 10 kilometers, passing by countless collapsed houses along the way. He saw those people running over, their hair disheveled, their backs drenched in sweat. Even though they looked extremely miserable, their expressions were filled with excitement. They had also noticed this bottle tree. The heavens haven't forsaken us, the heavens haven't forsaken us. We ran for hundreds of kilometers and encountered a few beast tides. We almost thought we were dead for sure. I didn't expect to find a bottle tree in a place like this. There must be water here. There's no doubt. Don't you see that some people have arrived here and are drinking? Look at these girls, their clothes are all wet. Damn it, this is such a waste of water. Don't they know that even a drop of water is priceless in this damned place? Get these guys to scram immediately. This bottle tree belongs to us. The dozen or so candidates were extremely excited. They pointed at the bottle tree, all of them thirsting for water. Brat, scram immediately. A flat-top candidate shouted at Xia Ping and the others. This bottle tree belongs to our Yenzhou district now. Take advantage of the fact that we haven't gotten angry, scram immediately. If you're a step late, I'll break all 3 of your legs. His attitude was extremely arrogant, as if he didn't put Xia Ping and the others in his eyes at all. Chapter 257. So. From all 4 directions, groups of people ran over. There were at least 7 to 8 different factions, and each faction had more than 10 people, forming a small team. These people were like wolves that had smelled blood, and all ran over. Wine bottle tree. There's a wine bottle tree here. I was right, this city was once inhabited, so there must be a place to drink water. Ordinary residential areas don't have a place to get water, but the palace definitely has one. We can mistreat anyone, but we can't mistreat the aristocrats, no matter what era, or which faction, it is the same. This wine bottle tree is so big, it must have stored at least 10 tons of water, it's more than enough for us to drink. All of the examinees were extremely excited. They all came to the empty space, and stared at the gigantic tree, as though they wanted to immediately pounce on it. Because they had run for over 100 kilometers, and walked under the scorching sun for a few hours, the water on their bodies had long evaporated, and they were extremely thirsty. If they did not rehydrate, they would be dead, and directly become dried corpses. In truth, along the way, there were a few examinees with weak physiques. Because they could not endure the cruel environment, they directly fell to the ground, and were unable to get up. Who exactly are you people? Seeing these people coming over, the crew-cut examinee had a gloomy look. He initially thought that with his team's strength, they would be able to occupy the wine bottle tree, but who would have thought that so many people would suddenly appear? Facing such a force, even if his team wanted to occupy it, it would be too difficult. I am an examinee from the Qing continent region. I am an examinee from the Su continent region. I am from the Jing continent region, Yu continent region, Yi continent region, Yong continent region, and Yang continent region. The examinees all reported their names. Every team was made up of elites from various continents, and it could be said that the examinees from all 9 continents were gathered here. Even before the examination, they were scattered in different regions, but after a few hours of exploring the ruins, they all coincidentally arrived at this place. You guys have seen it for yourself. There is only one wine bottle tree, but there are so many of us. How do you guys think we should settle this? The crew-cut examinee asked. What else can we do? Let's just split it evenly. That's right. Although there's only one bottle tree, it can store at least 10 tons of water. Even with so many of us, if we each take a mouthful, it will definitely be enough. That's right. Let's just split it evenly. Everyone should be friendly. There's no need to argue here. If we hurt our friendship here, it will be very disadvantageous for both sides. That's right, that's right. Although we all belong to different continents, we are all from planet Yanhuang. There is no need to fight to the death here. Yes, yes, yes. Harmony is number one. Many examinees discussed among themselves, revealing harmonious expressions. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that they didn't have an absolute advantage in terms of strength and couldn't suppress everyone present, they wouldn't have been so courteous. Alright, it's decided then. We'll split it evenly. Hearing the other candidates say this, the candidate with the crew cut had no choice but to say this. No, I don't agree. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. Who is it? Who doesn't agree? Who dares to be so arrogant and say they don't agree? Hearing this sentence, the candidate with the crew cut immediately shouted. They had all decided not to conflict with each other, so as not to cause disputes. But now there was actually someone who dared to refute loudly. Were they looking for trouble? Was there any unity at all? Where was the spirit of harmony? The one who spoke is the pretty boy standing under the bottle tree. Damn, that pretty boy seems to be having a good time. He even has 3 beautiful girls with him. Is he out on an outing? No, there's a damn fatty with him. That damn fatty must be storing food. If something goes wrong, he'll kill him and eat him raw. This kid dares to be so arrogant and deny our words. Does he want to die? A group of examinees discussed and looked at Xia Ping and the others with unkind eyes. The faces of the candidates from Yangzhou turned pale. They recognized Xia Ping as well. The memory of this fiend who killed the son of a big shot in Huajing City without mercy was still fresh in their minds. No one was not afraid of such ferocity. You don't agree? Why don't you agree? The candidate with the crew cut looked at Xia Ping with an unkind expression. Xia Ping said calmly, I found this bottle tree first, so it belongs to me. There's a first come, first served rule for everything. Without asking me, you fellows actually want to split it equally. You're so unscrupulous and don't even put me, the owner of the bottle tree, in your eyes. Isn't this a little too much? Bullshit. A candidate shouted, this bottle tree grows in the wild sand relic. It's an ownerless plant. You were the first to find it, so why does it belong to you? It doesn't make any sense. He stared at Xiaoping angrily. That's right. Don't try to flatter yourself. This bottle tree belongs to the public. Are you shameless enough to say that? You think you can take a precious plant like the bottle tree just because you say so? Do you know what propriety is? Do you know when to stop? You say we're going too far. You want to take the bottle tree? That's really going too far. You want to take the bottle tree? Have you considered your own strength? If you make us angry, you won't be able to bear the consequences, do you understand? Looking at this gigolo makes me angry. I need to teach him a lesson. Many candidates stared at Xiaoping viciously. They didn't expect this gigolo to be so arrogant. Seeing so many of them here, he still dared to take the bottle tree for himself. Did he really think they were soft persimmons that he could squash whenever he wanted? Shut up. Hearing these words, Feng Hetang immediately jumped out and cursed at the group of people. Do you know who my big brother is? Do you know who my big brother is? You dare to use such a tone to talk to my big brother? Do you know the meaning of death? My big brother said that this bottle tree belongs to him, so it belongs to him. No one can have any objections. Yet, all of you are still chattering non-stop. Don't you know how to show some respect? You still dare to say that this Lord Fatty is storing food? Don't you have any eyesight? How did you dregs survive until now? Without your mother by your side, you all don't know how to speak? He was still brooding over the fact that he was storing food. He felt that these bastards were insulting him. They couldn't say that he was useless just because he was fat. Chapter 258. Fuck, this damn fatty, why is he so arrogant? Even lackeys are so arrogant. Is there still justice in this world? This is too infuriating. I want to beat this damn fatty until he is several times fatter than he is now. Everyone, don't stop me. I want to beat him to death now. Hearing Feng Hetang's words, the examinees' noses were all crooked and there were signs of smoke coming out of their heads. They had never seen such an arrogant person in their lives. Not only did he want to occupy the bottle tree and swallow the water here, but he actually didn't even let them go to jail. He even said that they didn't know how to appreciate favors and didn't know how to speak. Even if he was arrogant, there should be a limit. He was looking down on them too much. Seeing the crowd surging emotions, Feng Hetang suddenly felt a little guilty and hid behind Xiaoping, looking like a dog that relied on its master's power. Gigolo. The flat-top examinee jumped out and stared at Xiaoping. You still haven't taught your dog a lesson? Don't let him jump out and court death. If he angers us, you won't even know how you die. He clenched his fists and cracked them, displaying the strength of the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. A terrifying aura rose. Even among the many examinees, his strength was one of the best. Even Su Yuntian was probably only at this level. It was no wonder he was so arrogant and confident. Not convinced? Xia Ping glanced sideways and said indifferently, "Come over and die. Pretty boy, you're courting death." Hearing this, the flat-top examinee was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. The sound waves vibrated, causing the ears of the surrounding people to ring. No one has ever dared to provoke me like this. Do you know how to provoke me? Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. With a boom, the crew-cut examinee immediately moved. He jumped over from his original position, and two huge pits immediately appeared in the ground. His legs generated a terrifying propulsion force, and terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. Kacha, kacha, kacha. One could totally imagine how terrifying his kick was just now. Too strong. I didn't expect this flat-top to be so fierce. His aura is like a tiger. This martial arts technique has been cultivated to the perfect realm. His martial arts strength is also extremely terrifying. I reckon that even among the candidates from the 9 great continents, Such strength is enough to rank among the top and sweep away all obstacles. That pretty boy is really unlucky. He'll probably be beaten into a pile of shit with one punch. Even his parents won't be able to recognize him. But who told him to be so arrogant? He even wanted to occupy the bottle tree. Is he courting death? Many examinees coldly laughed, looking at Xiaoping in disdain. They felt that this brat was dead for sure. There was no hope of victory at all. His ending would be insta-killed by a single punch, beaten so badly that he wouldn't even be able to tell north from south. Die! The crew-cut examinee roared in rage. He punched out like a ferocious tiger. His fist was like a seal, tearing through the air. With such a punch, even a gigantic boulder would be smashed into smithereens, leaving nothing behind. Xiaoping remained unmoved when he saw the crew-cut candidate making a move. He merely stretched out his right palm and struck out lightly. Bang! The fist and palm collided, and immediately, there was an explosion. The tyrannical true cheese scattered out, and two huge pits appeared under the feet of the two examinees. Countless cracks extended out. Strong gales shot out in all directions, and sand and dust billowed on the ground. A boulder in the distance was shattered into pieces, and a few unlucky examinees nearby were caught off guard. They were directly sent flying, coughing up blood in midair. What? However, the crew-cut examinee didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. It was because he felt that not only did his punch not cause this brat to take even half a step back, he even felt that his power seemed to have sunk into cotton, and all his strength was completely dissipated. Damn it, this is bad. However, before he could figure out what was going on, he immediately felt an extremely threatening aura coming from beside him. At this moment, Xiaoping's left hand suddenly moved, slapping out. This palm contained terrifying true qi, and a faint dragon roar could be heard. Its speed was as fast as lightning. The crew-cut examinee wanted to escape, but he had just unleashed a ferocious punch and had exhausted all his strength. At this moment, the old force had just dissipated, and he hadn't recovered his strength yet. In addition, the distance between him and Xiaoping was so great. How could he dodge? Bang! The slap landed squarely on the face of the crew-cut examinee, immediately leaving a five-fingered red mark. A terrifying force erupted, and his entire body was sent flying. This was like a giant bear swatting away a mosquito, effortlessly. With a bang, the crew-cut examinee let out a shrill scream. His entire body was sent flying, smashing into a rock wall dozens of meters away. With a few cracking sounds, his entire body smashed into the wall. Gravel flew everywhere, and sand and dust billowed. Several of his ribs were broken, and he couldn't help but cough out a large amount of blood. You! The crew-cut examinee's body sank into countless gravel. He looked at Xiaoping in horror, wanting to say something, but because his body was too painful, he couldn't say anything. He stared at Xiaoping, and with a smack, he fainted and was already unconscious. It can't be, this must be a joke. This is an expert at the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. This kind of strength is enough to tear monsters apart, but he was actually sent flying by a slap from this pretty boy. One examinee was dumbfounded, completely unable to believe his eyes. That crew-cut examinee is as weak as a mosquito. He is not a match for this pretty boy. This is a little exaggerated. Could that crew-cut examinee be acting? Is he pretending? Pretending? His acting is so realistic. What is the point of taking the test? Just go and act. Could it be that this pretty boy is more or less capable, and he is not bragging? Many examinees were shocked, and their expressions became solemn. Seeing the tragic state of the crew-cut examinee, they had to start taking this pretty boy seriously. With such strength, it was enough for them to look at him seriously. You dare to stand out and pretend with me with this little ability? You really disappoint me. Xiaoping stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the group of examinees with contempt. Come over. If any of you are still unconvinced, come up and take 2 steps. I promise I won't beat you to death. He looked around disdainfully, not taking these examinees seriously at all. Damn it, this pretty boy is also very arrogant. No wonder that lackey is so hateful. It turns out that he was taught by this guy. They are of the same lineage. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. He just defeated an examinee. Does he really think that he is invincible and doesn't take us seriously? You are still asking us who is unconvinced. What a joke, none of us are convinced. You want to occupy the wine bottle tree with just a few people? Do you really think that we are all inferior goods? Chapter 259. Pretty boy. With a swoosh, a 2-meter-tall strong man stood out. His whole body was covered with muscles, and he was as strong as a calf. His muscles were as strong as rocks. He held a huge hammer in his hand, and as he walked over, the earth shook and the mountains shook. His whole body emitted a terrifying pressure, and his eyes were filled with killing intent, causing people to tremble. Everyone was shocked. The hammer was at least a few thousand kilograms, and people who were not born with divine strength would not be able to lift it. This strong man was actually a Zune Realm 4th Sky martial artist. You want to be arrogant here, and be unscrupulous? You are too arrogant, let me teach you how to be a person. The strong man stared at Xia Ping, and said in an evil tone. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, the strong man immediately rushed over, and the huge hammer smashed over. Immediately, like a meteorite smashing into the ground, a terrifying airflow erupted, and the chi vibrated, setting off a terrifying gale. An ear-piercing sound rang in the air, and it was enough to imagine how terrifying this hammer was. Too strong. Some of the examinees who saw this scene trembled. Such a hammer, the power was at least over 100,000 kilograms, even a monster would be smashed into meat paste, and the earth would shake and the mountains would shake. This kid is dead for sure. Lu Chang is one of the strongest people in our Qing continent region, and people call him Dashi Lu Chang. With a hammer, the explosion of 100,000 kilograms, even a ferocious tiger would be killed and smashed into meat paste. This is true natural divine strength. That crew cut guy was not his opponent at all, just the wind from the hammer was enough to seriously injure that crew cut guy. A group of Qing continent region examinees laughed coldly. They had absolute confidence in Lu Chang. In fact, when they encountered the beast tide, this strong man Lu Chang took the lead, and like a tank, he crushed the monsters, and it was unknown how many monsters were smashed into meat paste by him, and he killed a path of blood, scaring a bunch of monsters. He had invincible strength, and was famous in the local continent. Xia Ping suddenly made a move, and with both feet on the ground, he punched out. The fist was wrapped with terrifying true chi, and it was extremely fast, tearing through the air, and because the speed was too fast, there was a burning smell in the air, and the faint roar of a tiger could be heard. Bang! Just like that, the fist and the giant hammer collided. Dazzling sparks immediately burst out, as if metal was fiercely rubbing against each other. Even the ground shook at this moment. Terrifying cracks appeared on the ground, some even extending for several kilometers. A tall city wall in the distance was immediately torn apart by the cracks on the ground. The city wall collapsed, rocks shattered, and dust rose everywhere. A few examinees in the surroundings were sent flying by the strong wind, coughing up blood in midair. What? You actually didn't get smashed into meat paste by my hammer? Lu Chang was also slightly shocked. He was invincible in the Qing continent region. Relying on this hammer, he killed anyone who stood in his way. If Buddha stood in his way, he would kill Buddha. Not many people could remain standing when the hammer struck down, which created his invincible ferocious might. However, not long after he came to Yanhuang University to take the exam, he immediately encountered a candidate who easily received his attack and was not injured by his strength. He even felt a terrifying rebounding force that made the web between his thumb and forefinger go numb. Such a shocking fact made Lu Chang a little dumbfounded. Xia Ping did not care about Lu Chang's shock, and easily received the hammer with one move. His body immediately moved, the fourth style of the myriad beast's fist, raging bull strike. Immediately, his body was like an ancient diabolical bull, filled with the power of true chi. His right hand formed a horn, and his feet were like the hooves of a bull, crushing mountains and rivers and shaking the stars. With a crack, the ground shook, and the bull's hooves rushed forward, rumbling, forming a terrifying wind. It was as if thousands of troops and horses had appeared, and the bull's horns fiercely smashed forward, as fast as lightning. This vast and unparalleled power rushed out, like an ancient diabolical bull charging at Mount Buzhou, erupting with terrifying power like a flood, destroying everything and tearing everything apart. Boom, ah! Lu Chang immediately let out a mournful scream. He was caught off guard and forcibly took the hit, and his huge body flew out like a piece of paper. Together with the iron hammer that weighed thousands of kilograms, he flew back a few hundred meters, and with a bang, he finally smashed into a huge wall nearby, creating a human-shaped hole. With a crashing sound, gravel flew in all directions, and sand and dust billowed. Lu Chang could not help but cough up blood. Just this hit had broken 7 or 8 of his ribs, and the pain was excruciating. He no longer had the strength to fight. This. The Qingzhou region examinees were all stunned, all of them were stunned. Lu Chang was one of the strongest examinees in the Qingzhou region. He was born with divine strength, and even if it was a hammer that weighed thousands of kilograms, he could use it freely. He was an invincible powerhouse. Along the way, he killed people and gods that stood in his way. He was invincible, and even monsters were slaughtered by him. But now, facing this pretty boy, he was as weak as a baby. With such a light hit, his whole body flew out, and all the strength in his body was wasted. He could no longer fight. When had they ever seen Boulder Lu Chang in such a sorry state? This was really a bit exaggerated. Damn, this kid is too strong. No one is a match for him in a one-on-one fight. This is not surprising. He is from our Yangzhou region. Previously, the #1 genius in Huajing City, Su Yuntian, was killed by him in public. No one could do anything to stop him. He is incomparably fierce. He is a demon. It can't be. Yangzhou region Su Yuntian. It is said that he is also a genius. He is from Huajing City's Su family. Even in the 9 great continents, he is considered a famous martial artist. His swordsmanship is superb. He is an expert in the 4th heaven of the martial artist realm, and yet he was killed by this kid. No one could do anything to help him. No wonder he is so terrifying. If this goes on, this kid will really occupy this bottle tree, and we will not even have water to drink. Bullshit. This pretty boy is strong, but there are only a few people. There are so many of us here. Even if each of us spit, it is enough to drown him. Yes, this is a war of survival, not some challenge tournament. There is no need to care about the Jianghu morality or the rules of the competition. Let's go together and beat this kid into a pig's head. Many of the candidates showed a fierce look in their eyes. They planned to join forces to kill Xiaoping. Even if no one was a match for this kid in a one-on-one fight, with so many of them attacking together, could they not defeat this kid? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, 7 or 8 figures immediately rushed out from the crowd. Among them, 2 were experts in the 3rd heaven of the martial artist realm, and 6 were experts in the 4th heaven of the martial artist realm. These people were the best of their respective continents, the real elites. Most of their strength was similar to that of the flat-top candidate and Boulder Lu Chang. Chapter 260. Whoosh! A bald candidate jumped over, wielding a meter-long sword. His body exuded a piercingly cold sword chi, and with a slash, it felt like the earth would be split in two. This was definitely a sword expert, and his strength was not inferior to Su Yuntian. In mid-air, densely packed sword shadows appeared. Ordinary people couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. On the right, a green-robed candidate wielded a large saber and rushed over like a tank. With a slash, the sound of thunder rumbled, displaying an invincible saber art. His aura was majestic, and the saber shadows overlapped. Such a saber art was powerful and heavy, and each slash contained a fatal killing intent. Even though it hadn't reached Xia Ping yet, the oppressive saber chi was enough to make countless martial experts tremble in fear. On the left, two fist experts appeared. They seemed to be twins, and their steps were synchronized, as though they were one. They punched out like ferocious tigers, exuding an unparalleled aura. True chi vibrated, and their fists were like seals. Their footsteps trampled on the ground, and each step created a terrifying crater. The surrounding people could feel the terrifying aura from these two, and they couldn't match them. There were also two experts wielding long spears. Their expressions were grave and stern, and they stabbed out with their spears, shaking the heavens and earth. A cold light flashed, and it could easily tear the enemy's throat apart. "Pretty boy, die for me. You think you can occupy the wine bottle tree by yourself? You must be dreaming. Just because you have some strength, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth? Today, I will teach you the principle of being low profile. Fall for me." 7 or 8 experts roared, their voices like thunder. They all exuded a terrifying aura, and just one of them was incomparably difficult to deal with. They could be considered the peak experts of their respective continents. But now, this group of people had joined hands just to deal with a single person. The combat strength they could display was simply terrifying. Seeing this group of people attacking together, Xia Ping immediately acted. His body exuded a cold aura, and he slapped out with his palm. Myriad Beast Fist 5th style, Coiling Snake Whip. With a boom, this palm slapped out. True chi condensed and left his body. It was formless and intangible, and it turned into many terrifying poisonous snakes, like whips, pouncing over from all directions. In mid-air, a dense number of whip shadows appeared, and there were at least hundreds and thousands of them. "What is this?" The bald man was shocked. He slashed out with his sword, but he found that these true energy whips were extremely condensed and tough. Water and fire couldn't penetrate them, so he couldn't cut through them. In the next second, these true energy whips seemed to have a mind of their own. Like venomous snakes, they moved along the long sword in his hand and quickly wrapped around his body. "Damn it, what is this thing?" The bald examinee was in disbelief. He had never seen such a bizarre move before. He circulated the cultivation art in his body and his true chi trembled, wanting to shatter this true chi whip. However, it was useless. This true energy was too tough and had condensed into a solid substance. It was as if it was constructed from macromolecular materials. No matter how much he struggled, it was useless. With a snap, the bald man's body was immediately bound by the whip. His hands and feet were tightly bound, and even the sword in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. "Damn it!" The other examinees also saw this scene and knew how powerful this move was. They all tried to dodge, but it was too late. Hundreds and thousands of true energy whips waved in mid-air, hissing and roaring. As if they were alive, they suddenly wrapped around the 7 experts. With a "pa" sound, Xia Ping slapped out with his palm, landing on the bodies of the 8 experts. A flood of energy exploded out, and the 8 experts were immediately sent flying, screaming in pain. With a few bangs, the 8 people slammed into the ground, creating 8 deep pits. They fell to the ground and coughed up blood. Even the clothes on their bodies were shattered by this force, leaving them naked. However, they were still tied up by the true energy whips and couldn't move. They were extremely aggrieved. "Not bad, not bad." Xia Ping looked at the miserable state of the 8 people, touched his chin, and exclaimed, "In the future, you don't need to wear clothes. A rope is enough. This kind of dressing is avant-garde." "Bastard! I'll wear your sister's rope, avant-garde my ass. If you have the guts, come and fight me one-on-one, don't use dirty tricks." The 8 experts were extremely aggrieved, and their faces were flushed red. They were the top experts of the 9 continents of Yan Huang Star. When had they ever suffered such humiliation? When had they ever been humiliated like this? Not only did he seriously injure them in front of so many people, but he also tore their clothes and tied them up with true energy ropes in front of so many people. Don't even mention how aggrieved they were. But no matter how aggrieved they were, there was nothing they could do. The 8 experts joined forces, but they were still no match for this perverted man. He captured them in one move without any resistance. He was too strong. Bah, this rogue. Seeing this situation, Jiang Yaru spat at this bastard. 8 naked strong men tied together. This scene was too unbearable to the eyes and simply couldn't be described in words. This rogue wouldn't use this trick on women, right? Chu Rong looked at Xia Ping with a perverted look. Just thinking about this kind of scene made her feel very horrified. Try to imagine, several hot women attacked Xia Ping at the same time, but they were beaten up like this. Their bodies were tied up with ropes. If this wasn't perverted, then what was? I feel that we need to be vigilant. We can't let him go out and harm society. Nangong Wu looked at Xia Ping with vigilance. Who knew what kind of personality this shameless man had? This rogue was capable of doing anything. Big Brother is Big Brother, as expected of a martial arts genius. He can even think of such a move. Seems like he has learned to put it into practice. Feng Hatong was so impressed that he prostrated himself in admiration. He can even think of the profound meaning of martial arts when he goes out to visit prostitutes. He can comprehend the path of martial arts from some perverted ways of playing. Is there anything he can't do? Seems like everything in this world is filled with knowledge. This fat lord is still far from being able to comprehend it. He was completely convinced by Xia Ping. If not, how could he have joined the giant company? Still not convinced? Xia Ping narrowed his eyes, staring at the 8 experts. A dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Since that's the case, I'll help you guys get rid of the root of your troubles. In the future, you can become a monk. Isn't that better? His right hand stretched out, transforming into a blade that emitted sharp true energy. It was as though with just a light slash, he would be able to unleash a tyrannical true energy that would completely remove the root of the troubles of these 8 experts. Stop immediately. This bastard is for real. Save us. This shameless gigolo wants us to die without descendants. The faces of the 8 experts all turned green. However, they were tied up by true energy ropes and couldn't move. Not only that, they were also heavily injured. Even if they wanted to fight back, it was impossible. How could they even struggle? Chapter 261. Stop. Leave the roots of the knife, no, be merciful. Let's attack together and stop this pervert immediately. Seeing this, a group of examinees exclaimed, if these 8 masters were destroyed by Xia Ping, their backbone would be gone, and their strength would definitely be greatly damaged. Even whether they could survive in this relic space for a month is unknown. No matter what, they can't let this kid hurt their boss. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, dozens of examinees immediately jumped out. Each of them is at least a master of the first heaven of the martial artist realm, although their strength is not as strong as the previous bosses, but they win in number. One by one, like hungry wolves, pounced from all directions, displaying exquisite boxing moves, punching out like the wind, the tyrannical true energy oscillation, attacking Xia Ping madly. Very good, beat this kid. So many people attack together, even the 5th heaven of the martial artist realm can't resist. 2 fists can't fight 4 hands, everyone at the same time. I guess this kid is scared to pee. This little white face is dead, there is no saving him at all. The 8 masters are all overjoyed, seeing their companions attack. All of them do their best. They know that under such a fierce bombardment, there is absolutely no reason for this kid to survive. In this way, they will be saved. Too presumptuous. Xia Ping's eyes showed a trace of coldness, and immediately set up a Tai Chi posture. The surface of his body instantly surged with a tyrannical true energy, as if the symbols of Tai Chi and 8 diagrams appeared on the ground. Dark North Body Protection Technique. This extremely tyrannical body protection technique was activated by him all at once, and the true energy enveloped his whole body, like a stream of water covering every corner of his body. Bang bang bang! Countless terrible true energy attacks, like cannonballs, hit Xiaoping's body fiercely, and every blow is full of extreme destructive power, enough to tear the earth and shatter the rocks. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Xiaoping's hands turned into a circle, forming a Tai Chi, and countless true energy powers were absorbed by the protective shield on his body, like merging into the water, silent. Boom! He took a step forward and struck out with his palm. Countless amounts of energy that had been absorbed erupted in an instant. It was as if a volcano that had been accumulating energy for a long time had finally erupted. A huge pit immediately appeared under Xiaoping's feet. Kacha, 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 cracks densely covered the ground like a spider web. It was a terrifying scene. In the blink of an eye, he slapped the air, going with the flow. It was as if the flow of water was flowing in reverse. Waves of energy flowed back along the original path, returning to the examinees who had unleashed their full power. Ah! Instantly, these examinees didn't know what had happened. They were clearly the ones who had attacked this gigolo, but in the next second, the force of their attack was completely absorbed by him and even reflected back at them. One by one, they let out miserable cries. They had no time to dodge and were struck by the power of their own attacks, sending them flying in all directions. Bang bang bang! These examinees were all smashed into the ground tens of meters away, creating human-shaped pits. A few of their ribs were broken, and they couldn't help but cough up blood on the ground, looking extremely miserable. You must be joking. When the bald examinee saw this scene, he was a little dumbfounded. Tens of them had unleashed their full power, but not only were they unable to harm this gigolo at all, they were even beaten half to death by this guy. All of them were like dead dogs. This joke is really too big. The crew-cut examinee's jaw dropped. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming or had entered some kind of illusion. Tens of examinees attacked at the same time. Even he wouldn't be able to retreat unscathed. A single move was enough to cripple him. No matter how monstrous this gigolo was, it was impossible for him to come out unscathed. Yet, he was completely fine. On the contrary, those examinees were beaten up miserably. All of them fell to the ground, coughing up blood non-stop. They no longer had the strength to continue fighting. Didn't they say that Su Yuntian was the only genius in the Yangzhou region? Where did this pervert come from? Why haven't I heard of him before? He's too well hidden. He's pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. An examinee shouted, staring at Xiaoping in fear. He was completely stunned by the strength of this demon. Tens of examinees attacked at the same time, yet they couldn't do anything to him. How could the remaining examinees be a match for this brat? Even if they went up, they would only be tortured. He no longer had the courage to fight against Xiaoping. He was so scared that he was completely submissive. So. At this moment, the examinees from the 8 continents all looked at the examinees from the Yangzhou region. Because most of them had attacked earlier, only the examinees from the Yangzhou region didn't act. It was as though they were afraid of something. And because of this, the examinees from the Yangzhou region were safe and sound. This fellow is a monster that only appeared recently. It's said that he has already been recruited by the giant corporation. Facing the gazes of so many people, an examinee from the Yangzhou region said with a guilty conscience. The other examinees from the Yangzhou region also avoided eye contact, feeling very guilty. In truth, they had also seen Xiaoping's strength before, which was why they didn't dare to act recklessly. Now, it seemed that their decision was correct. If not, they would definitely follow in the footsteps of these people. What? He's actually from the giant corporation. No wonder he's so abnormal. It's said that those who can join the three major companies are all super geniuses, monsters, and have the potential to advance to the king realm. If he's such a monster, it's completely understandable. I guess only Mu Bancheng, who joined the Aurora Corporation, who is also one of the three giants of Yanhuang planet, can compare with this guy. We are not his opponents at all. Too unlucky, how could we encounter such a monster here? There's no justice in this world. Many examinees were talking about it, and all of them were extremely aggrieved. Even if they were very unwilling, under such tyrannical power, they had to admit it. They were no match for this gigolo at all. Are you guys convinced? Xia Ping stood with his hands behind his back and glanced sideways at them. If you're not convinced, just come at me. If I can't beat you to death, consider it my loss. His words were like a mountain pressing down on the examinees. You, don't go too far. We are all examinees from Yanhuang planet. We should be harmonious. An examinee's face was red with grievance, and he shouted with a stiff neck. With a bang, Xia Ping stepped out, and his eyes showed a hint of fierceness. It seems that you still don't accept it. In that case, I will make a move and break your bones one by one. Maybe then, you will be convinced. If you still don't accept it, then I will interrupt you again. His body exuded a terrible murderous aura. I'm convinced, my Yenzhou region is convinced, don't come over. Qingzhou region is convinced, Shuzhou region is convinced, and Jingzhou region is convinced. Chapter 262. Very good. Upon hearing these words, Xia Ping looked at these examinees and waved his hand. If you are convinced, then scram. Don't be an eyesore here. However, none of these examinees moved, revealing expressions of extreme difficulty. This. An examinee gritted his teeth and hesitated for a moment before saying, I also know that my request is a little overboard. I wonder if you can let us drink a mouthful of water? From the start of the examination until now, we have been exposed to the sun for a few hours. Our bodies are dehydrated and our stamina has been greatly depleted. If this continues, we will die for sure. He lowered his head toward Xia Ping. The group of examinees stared at Xia Ping with pitiful looks on their faces. Drink your head. Feng Hetong immediately jumped out and cursed at these examinees. Previously, you guys were so arrogant, telling us to scram for no reason at all. Arrogant and despotic, not putting us in your eyes at all. Now, after being beaten up by my big brother, you guys have become cowards? Let me tell you honestly, my big brother told you to scram and spared your lives. That is already the greatest kindness he can give you. To think that all of you are asking for a foot after being given an inch. You still want to drink water? Drinking urine will be your share. He looked at these examinees in disdain. Damn fatty, don't go too far. All of the examinees felt extremely sullen. They wanted nothing more than to give this damn fatty a good beating. How could there be such a despicable lackey in this world? This was simply forcing them to their deaths. So what if I'm going too far? Feng Hetong revealed an infuriating expression. So what if I'm bullying you guys? If you have the guts, come and bite me. You guys don't have any capabilities and only know how to talk nonsense. Go home and find your mother to drink nai. Drinking nai is more nutritious than drinking water. It's very suitable for you guys. What the heck? Many examinees bared their teeth. If not for the fact that they couldn't defeat Xia Ping, a bunch of them would definitely rush up and beat this detestable fatty into a pig's head. And, it's not impossible to let you guys drink water, but you have to pay a price. Xia Ping touched his chin. He suddenly felt that it was a pity to let these people leave just like that. He might as well make use of trash. Also, there was so much water in the bottle tree. The few of them wouldn't be able to finish it all. Price? What's the price? The group of examinees looked at Xia Ping. Xia Ping stretched out 2 fingers. I'll allow you to drink from the bottle tree. Drink as much as you want, but each person must pay 200 million federal coins as the price for drinking here. 200 million federal coins. Upon hearing this, all the examinees present were dumbfounded. They looked at Xiaoping as if they were looking at a lunatic. Did he know what kind of figure 200 million federal coins was? For ordinary people, it was an astronomical figure that they could never earn in their entire lives. Even for a martial warrior realm expert, they would have to spend several years and live frugally before they could earn it. But now, it was just a drink of water, and this guy actually wanted them to hand over 200 million federal coins. Wasn't this crazy? This is daylight robbery, an examinee said in grief and indignation. Xiaoping said with a smile, "No, I earn more than robbing." The group of examinees was speechless. They couldn't find any reason to refute his words. "Of course, if you don't want to drink, I won't force you. After all, I'm not a businessman who forces people to buy or sell. I've always been fair." Xiaoping expressed that he wasn't someone who liked to force others. The group of examinees was indignant. How was this forcing? This was clearly coercion. Within a radius of 100 miles, they couldn't find a second clean water source. This was the only place that had it. If they left this place, they would probably die of thirst and become dried corpses. Thus, even if they were beaten up by Xiaoping, they were unwilling to leave. "My big brother said 200 million, so it's 200 million. If you think it's expensive, don't drink it." Feng Hetang shouted, "Do you all think you're in a big city? In the outside world, a cup of water might be worth 1 federal coin, but in the wild sand ruins, it's worth 200 million. This isn't money for water, it's money to save lives. Without this water, you're dead, do you understand? Tell me, is your life worth 200 million? Now think carefully, is this 200 million still expensive?" Upon hearing this, the group of examinees was dumbfounded. "From what you said, 200 million really isn't expensive." An examinee said foolishly. With a slap, a companion next to him slapped him and scolded, "Are you stupid? Don't listen to that damn fatty's nonsense. He's twisting words and forcing logic. All profiteers are like this. Don't be fooled." But I don't have that much money on me. Can it be less?" An examinee said unconfidently. "I don't have that much now, but I'll have it in the future." Xiaoping wasn't worried at all. "I can lend you 200 million first, and then you can slowly pay it back. 3% interest every month, with compound interest." Shameless. The group of examinees gritted their teeth. 3% interest every month, and compound interest, to think that this guy could think of something like this. If they really signed such a high-interest loan, and the interest accrued for a few years, they would have to work for this bastard for the rest of their lives, becoming slaves to this guy. Thinking about it, they would all be students of Yanhuang University in the future. After graduation, all of them would be upper echelons of the federal government, but they could only be slaves to this bastard and work for him for the rest of their lives. In this way, what kind of future did they have? It was completely dark. Even if they really became students of Yanhuang University, they wouldn't feel the slightest bit happy. "That's amazing, big brother. He actually thought of this high-interest loan." Feng Hetang was full of admiration. If they signed this high-interest loan contract, how could these people run away? They would have to be thugs and slaves for Big Brother for the rest of their lives. "You're too greedy. What does a high school student need so much money for? With such a big appetite, aren't you afraid of being stuffed to death?" An examinee gritted his teeth and glared at Xiaoping. They had 120 people here. If each of them had 200 million, this guy would have earned more than 20 billion. This number was simply frightening. No aristocratic family would look down on this number. That's easy for you to say. What doesn't need money in this world? There are many places where you need to spend money. Xiaoping looked at the other party with disdain. "I usually have to go to prostitutes and gamble. The expenses are huge, and I have to keep mistresses and female celebrities. Do you think these places don't need money? I can't make ends meet every day. Truly, the well-fed don't know the suffering of the starving. The group of examinees' mouths twitched. Going to prostitutes and gambling, and still wanting to keep mistresses and female celebrities. Of course, he couldn't make ends meet. Even if he had a family fortune of 100 billion, he probably wouldn't be able to afford such extravagance. This was the first time they heard someone describe squandering in such a fresh and refined way. It was simply shameless to the extreme. Chapter 263. I know Big Brother's financial situation. He is indeed very poor. At this moment, Feng Hatang shouted, I just went to Black Moon City and spent a few $100 million. Now that there's an economic crisis, I hope you rich people can help the poor. Anyway, 200 million is nothing to you. It's just a drop in the bucket, understand? What the heck, he really went to visit a prostitute. The faces of the candidates turned green. They had already spent a few $100 million to do shameless things, and this bastard was still crying about being poor. They had never seen such a shameless prodigal. Moreover, they felt very embarrassed to be blackmailed by such a prodigal and not dare to resist. But they had to lower their heads when they were under someone else's roof. Xia Ping stretched out 3 fingers. All right, that's the deal. I'll give you 3 minutes to think about it. If you don't agree after 3 minutes, I won't let you drink any water, even if you pay. Time starts now. He did not give the candidates much time to consider. He immediately took out his phone and turned on the virtual projection. A 3-minute countdown appeared in midair. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The countdown in midair passed second by second. Every ring of the bell seemed to hit their hearts. This made the candidates instantly tense up. They didn't expect Xia Ping to actually use this move. In fact, this was also something Xia Ping thought of from some sales methods in his previous life. Usually, an excellent product would attract countless customers to buy it crazily if it was sold for a limited time. This did not give the other party time to think carefully. After buying the product, it would be too late even if the customer wanted to regret it. Xia Ping was not worried that the candidates would refuse. This was because within a radius of 100 miles, this was the only place with water. If they missed this chance, they would not be able to find any other water sources. It could be said that if they did not want to die, they could only sign the contract and spend 200 million to buy it. Okay, there's 1 minute left. Xia Ping looked at the countdown and said expressionlessly, if you don't agree after this minute, scram. I'll buy it. It's just 200 million. I'll buy it. Me too, 200 million it is. Give me water. I want it now. Sign the contract. Hearing these words, in addition to the fact that the countdown timer was disappearing minute by minute, the group of examinees instantly became nervous. They didn't even have time to consider and instinctively chose to agree. If there wasn't a 3-minute time limit, perhaps they would still be considering this and that, but when Xia Ping said that he would no longer accept any deals after 3 minutes, they couldn't think anymore. Although 200 million federal coins was a lot, it was nothing compared to their own lives. Once they entered Yanhuang University, they didn't know how many hundreds of millions they could earn. What's the use of having money if you're dead? All right, one by one. Don't be in such a hurry. Take your time to sign the contract. Xia Ping smiled as he looked at the group of examinees queuing up in front of him. One by one, they took out their student microchips and signed a contract worth 200 million with Xia Ping. With this contract, even if they left the wild sand ruins, Xia Ping wouldn't have to worry about these candidates going back on their word. This profiteer. Jiang Yaru looked at Xia Ping speechlessly. She carefully counted. There were at least 120 candidates present. If each of them got 200 million, that would be a total profit of 24 billion federal coins. This amount, even for a large family, was an astronomical figure that they could only look up to. Even if you beat her to death, she would never have imagined that just a little bit of water could actually earn them over 20 billion. How was this water? Even if it was gold, it wouldn't be that expensive. That's too exaggerated. Nangong Wu and Chu Rong's mouths also twitched. They knew how difficult it was to earn money. Every bit of income was hidden behind a person's blood, sweat, and tears. Even large families were the same. They had to deal with all sorts of relationships, face all sorts of benefits, and face attacks from enemies. But now, this bastard had casually scared them, and a group of people had eagerly delivered over 20 billion to their doorstep. How could there be such easy money in this world? Nangong Wu believed that even if her family had 10 years, they still wouldn't be able to earn 20 billion. All of you are paying directly. Is there no one who wants to borrow money from me? There's a discount on the interest. I can give you guys a 10% discount. If you're late, this discount will be gone. Xia Ping shouted. Discount my ass. A group of examinees looked at Xia Ping in disdain. A 10% discount was a bullshit discount. It wasn't even enough. Only idiots would agree to borrow money from this shameless bastard. They were able to participate in Yanhuang University's examinees and advance to the martial warrior realm because 99% of them were from large families. They had rich resources and the full support of their families to reach such a realm. It could be said that none of them was short of money. If they could pass Yanhuang University, even if they had no money, their respective families would still pay, so they wouldn't borrow money from this shameless profiteer even if they were beaten to death. If you don't have it, then forget it. Xia Ping didn't care about this and said, if you sign the contract, you can go over there to drink water. Remember to be careful. If you dare to waste water, I'll break your 3 legs. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hearing these words, a group of people cheered. They couldn't wait any longer. They were almost dried up by the 3 suns, and their bodies lacked a lot of water. One by one, they rushed over and drank water crazily. Big brother, congratulations. You've made a lot of money. Feng Hetong immediately went up to flatter Xia Ping. Xia Ping smiled and said, well said, well said. This is robbing the rich to help the poor. Otherwise, how could there be a way for us poor people to survive in this world, don't you think so? With this huge sum of money, he could buy all kinds of precious pills and powerful weapons, laying the foundation for him to advance to the peak of the martial path. That's right, that's right. Those rich people helping poor people like you is their duty, and also an honor. Feng Hetong shouted. Alright, stop bragging here. Jiang Yaru looked at these 2 shameless people blowing their own trumpets and said, it's going to be dark soon. At that time, the temperature will drop rapidly, and it might even reach negative tens of degrees, to the point where even a drop of water will turn into ice. We need to find a safe place to stay. Chu Rong and Nangong Wu both nodded. If they couldn't find a place to stay, they probably wouldn't be able to survive the night. A safe place? Xia Ping's eyes flashed. Can't the rooms in this palace do? He pointed at a huge room next to them. It seemed to be the original bedroom of the palace. What? This kind of temperature was also bearable for ordinary martial artists. This was the magic of the Black House. It was probably the technology of the people who once lived in the ruins. They had found a way to resist the high temperature. If it wasn't for this, there was no way they could survive in this place. Fortunately, I found this ruined city. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to survive for long under such low temperatures. I wonder how the other candidates are doing. Jiang Yaru couldn't help sighing. There are many similar houses in this ruined city. I guess those people have moved to other houses. Chu Rong said in a low voice, as for the examinees who aren't in the ruins, I don't know. However, the heavens will always have a chance of survival. They will always find a place to hide from the wind and snow. Let's sleep. It's been a tiring day. I feel like I need a good night's sleep in order to replenish the energy I used today. Nangong Wu yawned, laid on the ground, and fell asleep. Feng Hatong had long since fallen asleep. He was lying on the ground, snoring. At this time, Xia Ping didn't stay in the Black House. Instead, he walked out to the outside world of ice and snow. He sat cross-legged and meditated, feeling the -10 degrees Celsius temperature outside. If someone was watching from the side, they would immediately be overwhelmed with shock. Because around Xia Ping's body, layers of red light had appeared, forming an energy barrier that emitted an incomparably high temperature. Any snowflakes that fell from the sky would instantly melt. With Xia Ping's body as the center, a circle of 3 to 4 meters in diameter was formed, surrounded by rising steam. As expected, in such a cruel environment, circulating the pure yang immortal art has great benefits for cultivation. Xia Ping sat cross-legged on the ground, circulating the art within his body. At this time, his entire body was like a small sun, emitting endless energy. The blood vessels in his body were trembling, and his blood was boiling like magma. Even if it was -10 degrees Celsius, under such a scorching temperature, it could be driven away. No cold could exist. From afar, Xia Ping was like a sun. Even under the stimulation of such low temperature, he felt that the medicinal power in his body was constantly being refined. A trace of tyrannical pure yang qi emerged, constantly filling the third aperture, and advancing towards the peak of the third heaven of the martial artist realm. This wild sand ruins is simply a blessed place for me to cultivate. During the day, I can use the energy of the sun to enhance my cultivation. At night, I can also use the low temperature to temper my body and refine the medicinal power in my body. Cultivating here for a day is at least equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for a few months. Xia Ping's eyes revealed a glimmer of light. He was very happy. Whether it was extreme cold or extreme heat, his pure yang immortal art could deal with it freely. In fact, the more cruel it was, the faster his potential was stimulated, and he became even more tyrannical. At this time, the examinees from the other 9 continents also found a huge house in the palace and temporarily stayed in it to avoid the violent wind and snow outside. But they were still angry and unable to calm down. It's too hateful. A examinee gritted his teeth. That Xia Ping is too domineering and arrogant. He actually blackmailed each of us for a total of 200 million federal coins. Why is his appetite so big? Can't anyone come and punish him? He was very unconvinced. Thinking that he had to pay Xia Ping 200 million federal coins just for some water, even if he came from an aristocratic family, he felt extremely heartbroken, as if his flesh had been cut off. There's nothing we can do. That bastard is too strong. Even if we join forces, we are not his opponent. Strong my ass. If I, Mu Banqing of the Shuzhou district, was here, how could this bastard be so arrogant? When there is no tiger in the mountain, the monkey claims to be the king. Just wait, our 9 continents are full of strong people. We can always find someone to deal with this guy. But tomorrow, let's go to the nearby oasis to find some herbs to treat the injuries on our bodies. If we delay for too long, there will be no cure. Damn, that bastard is really ruthless. He doesn't have a harmonious spirit at all. In short, we will remember this matter. Sooner or later, that bastard will be unlucky. Chapter 265. Time passed in the blink of an eye. 2 to 3 days had passed. Xia Ping and the others stayed in the Black House to rest and replenish their stamina. Because Jiang Yaru and the others had just advanced to the martial warrior realm, they needed a few days to consolidate their cultivation and martial arts foundation, so as not to cause an unstable foundation and destroy their body's potential. Moreover, they also had gem fruits with them. Half a fruit could be used as food for a day. There was also water around, so they didn't need to go anywhere else and could rest here. Boom! One morning, the sun slowly rose. Xia Ping sat outside the house, his body emitting layers of water vapor. This aura seemed to form fierce tigers, lions, raging bulls, and other fierce beasts. Finally, it formed a real dragon. With an earth-shattering roar. With a bang, 5 to 6 terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. Kacha kacha, the aura shook the surrounding hundreds of meters. Peak of the third heaven of the martial warrior realm. Xia Ping clenched his fists and felt the tyrannical power in his body. After a few days of cultivation, his physique had become stronger than before, and the genuine qi in his body had also grown extremely fast. It had already reached the peak of the third heaven of the martial artist realm. He was just one step away from advancing to the fourth heaven of the martial warrior realm. All he needed was an opportunity. If he was in the outside world, he probably wouldn't have been able to cultivate so fast. But with the help of the cruel environment of the ruins, he stimulated his body's potential and cultivated faster than in the outside world. There's someone. Xia Ping's eyes flashed. He immediately sensed that many people were quickly coming to the Black House. Feeling the movement outside, Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, Nangong Wu, and Feng Hatong, who were resting in the room, also quickly came out and looked into the distance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. They saw the candidates coming from afar. In an instant, they arrived in front of Xia Ping and the others. These people were the previous candidates from the 9 continents. They were now gathered here. However, these candidates looked a little miserable. Each of them was emaciated, weak, and unkempt. It was unknown how long they had been starving. They looked a little like African refugees. What are you doing here? Do you want to give me money again? Seeing these people appear, Xia Ping blinked. Give my ass. The mouths of the examinees twitched. They wanted nothing more than to give this bastard a slap. Did he really think they were fools? They had so much money that they didn't even have the chance to spend it. Why would they casually give money to this fellow? Even if he had a lot of money, he couldn't afford to squander like this. Xia Ping, we have something to discuss with you. The one who spoke was the examinee with the flat top. After 3 days of recuperation, he had found some precious healing herbs in the oasis. In addition to the powerful recovery abilities of cultivators, the injuries on his body seemed to have healed quite a bit. He was full of energy, and at the very least, he didn't look like he was on the verge of dying a few days ago. Little crew cut, speak. What do you want to discuss with me? Xia Ping looked at the group of examinees. The corner of the flat-top candidate's mouth twitched. I'm not Little Flat Top. Don't give me such a weird nickname. My name is Wu Tong. Remember it well. Who cares what your name is? If you have something to say, just say it. My big brother is very busy. He doesn't have time to chat with you here. Feng Hatong jumped out. Damn fatty. The flat-top candidate, Wu Quan, almost couldn't suppress the urge to beat up Feng Hatong. He took a deep breath and forcefully stabilized his emotions. In a deep voice, he said, "It's like this. We found a black stone mountain about 100 kilometers away from the ruins of the city. There are many fire lizards living there. Therefore, we want to hunt these ferocious beasts and use them as food. I believe you are also troubled by food. As long as we kill these ferocious beasts, we can obtain meat from their bodies to replenish the energy in our bodies." Xia Ping touched his chin. Fire lizard? They were indeed short of food. After all, there were only so many gem fruits. After 2 to 3 days, they had almost used up all of them. In fact, even if the flat-top candidate and the others hadn't come, he had also planned to look for food. Fire lizard is a powerful monster that lives in a cruel environment, Nangong Wu said in a deep voice. They are good at drilling holes. They usually eat soil for a living and decompose various minerals. They even have scales on their bodies, like solar panels. They absorb the energy of the sun to strengthen themselves. If we can kill these fire lizards, we can take out their hearts. Their hearts are very delicious and contain a huge amount of energy. They are no less than any top-grade pill. As long as we get one, we don't have to worry about food for a day. She knew all kinds of monsters that appeared on Yanhuang Star very well. Her memory could be said to be photographic. Eat soil for a living? Xia Ping touched his chin. Why are they similar to some poor people on Yanhuang Star? Jiang Yaru rolled her eyes at this guy. So strong? Chu Rong ignored Xia Ping's words. She was a little surprised. Not only do they usually eat soil for a living, but they also like to swallow various minerals. They can also absorb the energy of the sun. Who can exterminate this fire lizard? Doesn't that mean they can survive anywhere? How can there be such a terrifying monster in the world? Being able to absorb the energy of the sun meant that this monster didn't need to eat any food. It could even survive on the sun. This was a bit terrifying. It is indeed terrifying. Nangong Wu nodded. Some scientists have studied that they may be one of the most ancient creatures on Yanhuang Star. They have lived for billions of years and have never appeared before. But during the Great Catastrophe, the Antarctic ice thawed, and these ancient creatures revived from ancient times and reappeared on this planet. However, this monster is also extremely powerful. It has scales on its body and is invulnerable. It also has fangs and claws. It is extremely fast and ferocious. It also likes to form groups. Even the most ordinary fire lizard has the strength of the first layer of the martial artist realm. It is not easy to kill one. Her face was a little serious. However, it was indeed as the flat-top candidate said. If they could kill a fire lizard and get meat from it, then their food shortage would be alleviated. If each of them could kill 30 of them, it was estimated that they would not be short of food for this month. They could also live safely in this relic space for 30 days and easily pass the exam. Since you know about this fire lizard, it will be easy. The flat-top candidate, Wu Tong, immediately said. I don't know if you would like to join our team to hunt this fire lizard. With everyone's strength, killing this fire lizard should not be difficult. Chapter 266. Why don't you guys go to the oasis to hunt monsters? Logically speaking, shouldn't there be more monsters at the oasis and it's closer? Feng Hetang asked curiously. An examinee said helplessly, the oasis is too dangerous. It's many times more dangerous than the Blackstone Mountain Range. There are all sorts of poisonous insects and ferocious beasts. We'd be courting death if we went there. The other examinees nodded. Although the oasis was vast and there shouldn't be a lack of food, there were many poisonous insects, snakes, bees, and other poisonous creatures. If they encountered these creatures, they wouldn't even be able to escape. If they weren't careful, they would be poisoned to death. However, heading to the Blackstone Mountain Range was different. Although the firethorn lizards were very powerful, they were only one species and didn't have any poison on them. In comparison, the firethorn lizards could be said to be the best prey. No problem, I promise you guys. Hearing this, Xia Ping immediately agreed, agreeing to hunt the firethorn lizards with them. It can't be, right? For real. The examinees were all stunned. They thought that Xia Ping would have many other harsh conditions before agreeing to hunt the firethorn lizards with them. After all, this guy had learned from his past mistakes. He would extort as much as he could, shameless to the extreme. Lead the way. Xia Ping couldn't be bothered to waste words with these people and went straight to the point. The reason why he was so straightforward was because he wanted to hunt the firethorn lizards and obtain a large amount of food. With these people leading the way, it would save him a lot of effort. The crew-cut examinees were instantly overjoyed. They didn't care why Xia Ping would agree so directly. They immediately led the way. With such experts by their side, the danger of hunting the firethorn lizards would definitely be greatly reduced. Under the scorching sun, the group of examinees ran towards the Blackstone Mountain Range. Along the way, Xia Ping and the others saw many corpses of examinees. Some were torn apart by the desert monsters, leaving only their bones behind, while others couldn't withstand the scorching sun and fell to the ground, becoming dried corpses. This was the cruelty of this examination. "We're here." After running for 2 to 3 hours, Wu Tong and the others immediately pointed ahead. They saw a huge mountain range suddenly appearing in front of them. There was an endless chain of mountain peaks. However, these mountains were all barren, without any vegetation. They were all made of black rocks, and there were even a few volcanoes that were spewing lava, emitting terrifying heat. Caves also appeared in the middle of these black stone mountains. They seemed to have been dug out by some kind of creature. They seemed to be densely packed and extended to who knew how far. Up ahead, just up ahead. "Those firethorn lizards are hiding in the caves. We need to go in and kill them," said Wu Tong, pointing to a mountain in front. "Hurry up and go in. The sun is too hot." Feng Hetong was gasping for breath. His whole body was drenched as if it had been flooded with water. Even though he had advanced to the martial warrior realm, he still could not withstand such a high temperature. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The group of people climbed up the mountain, jumping like monkeys. Soon, they reached the waist of the mountain. However, when they reached the middle of the mountain, they encountered a group of people. The other party had already arrived at this place and were guarding the cave. Moreover, there were many of them. There were 20 to 30 of them. "Who are you?" A young examinee in cyan clothes immediately appeared in front of them. He shouted angrily, "This is the hunting ground of Shuzhou district. If you don't want to die, quickly retreat." His voice was like a tiger's roar, producing a huge sound wave that was extremely intimidating. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. The 20 to 30 examinees near the entrance of the cave all looked over. Each of them exuded a tyrannical aura. Every one of them was an expert in the martial warrior realm, and their gazes were condensed. "An examinee from Shuzhou district?" Hearing this, Xia Ping touched his chin, looked at some of the examinees from Shuzhou district beside him, and asked, "Do you know that kid? What is his background? Why is he so arrogant?" "He is Rodi from Longyuan City, the capital of Shuzhou district. He is in the 4th heaven of the martial warrior realm and is from the Luo family." When a Shuzhou district examinee saw the man in cyan clothes appear, his face immediately became solemn. "He is very famous and powerful. He is the #1 person after Mu Bancheng. It is said that he is also one of Mu Bancheng's best subordinates. He is very arrogant and has never taken ordinary examinees like us seriously." There was a little resentment in his words. It seemed that he had a conflict with Rodi. What a coincidence. Rodi seemed to recognize the examinee from Shuzhou district who spoke in an instant, and said, "Isn't this the young master of the Shi family, Shi Fei? I didn't expect that you would actually appear in this place as well. We are really fated. But what exactly is going on here? Looking at you, you don't seem to be the boss. You are only a subordinate, and you even listen to the orders of others? What a joke. I didn't expect that you would abandon yourself to become someone else's lackey. Are you trying to throw the face of my Longyuan city?" A trace of a sneer appeared on his face, and he looked disdainfully at the examinee from Shuzhou district, Shi Fei. "You!" Shi Fei's face immediately darkened, and he glared at Rodi angrily. He completely didn't expect that this fellow would actually slap his face in front of so many people, not giving him any face at all. Rodi sneered, You? I can't say anything about you now, can I? Get over here immediately, don't embarrass yourself here. A member of the dignified Shi family of Longyuan City is actually a lackey for someone else. You can afford to lose face, but I can't. After the exam ends, I'll surely go to the Shi clan and see exactly what kind of education they had to have taught you to become like this. You don't have any bones at all. I wonder if your parents didn't educate you well. Shi Fei clenched his fists tightly, and his expression was extremely unsightly. You've gone a bit too far with your words. Xia Ping's eyes narrowed as he stared at Rodi. Presently, Fei was his subordinate, and he was standing up for him. Now that this kid humiliated Fei like this, it was the same as humiliating him. None of your business. Rodi sneered repeatedly, and stared at Xia Ping. I haven't even gotten even with you, you actually dare make a member of my Longyuan city be your lackey. You're quite bold, kid. Don't you know this is a great taboo? Get over here immediately and kowtow to apologize. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Xia Ping looked indifferently at Rodi, and said with a faint tone, I didn't even offend you, yet you actually dared to offend me. Needless to say, you're very bold, truly very bold. Bold my ass. Reckless fellow, you don't even know who exactly you've offended. What's the point of saying so much? Make a move together, take this fellow down, and let him know what's good for him. The 20 to 30 examinees behind him all sneered repeatedly, and looked at Xia Ping in disdain. As examinees of Shuzhou district, they were used to being arrogant and had always been domineering. When had they ever put others in their eyes? Get over here. Chapter 267. Boom. At this moment, Roddy displayed the strength of the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. He was like an eagle, descending from the sky to hunt his prey. His speed was incredibly fast. His left hand was like an eagle's beak, his right hand was like wings, and his feet were like eagle's claws. He tore through the air and attacked. Just the strong wind created a few terrifying marks on the ground, creating a ravine that stretched for tens of meters. Although Roddy was very arrogant, his strength was extremely strong even among the examinees. It was enough to stand at the top. Even Su Yuntian was not his match. Xia Ping suddenly attacked. His eyes emitted a cold light and he slapped at Roddy like a violent bear coming out of the mountain. The earth shook and a terrifying aura surged out of his body. What's going on? Before the attack hit Xia Ping, Roddy instinctively felt a trace of horror. His body felt a fatal danger, but he could not react at all. A huge black shadow covered his body. It was a slap. Bang! The slap was like a giant bear slapping an eagle. It landed on Roddy's body, producing a terrifying destructive force of 100,000 kilograms. Ah! Audie screamed and flew out like a ball. He instantly smashed into the opposite mountain wall, creating a huge human-shaped pit. His bones were cracking and a few of his ribs were broken. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Dozens of terrifying cracks appeared on the mountain wall and rubble flew everywhere. How dare you talk nonsense in front of me with such little ability? Who taught you to be so overconfident? Xia Ping stood with his hands behind his back and looked indifferently at Roddy, who was slapped on the wall. You! Roddy could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His injuries were too serious, but his mental injuries were even more serious. He was an expert in the fourth heaven of the martial artist realm. However, the other party was only in the third heaven of the martial artist realm. He actually killed him with one move, as if he was slapping a ball. That speed was so fast that he could not react at all. Still not convinced? Xia Ping clenched his fist. It's okay. I like to deal with people like you who are not convinced. It gives me a sense of accomplishment to deal with them. He walked over and wanted to dig the kid out from the mountain wall and beat him up. Stop! How dare you attack Brother Luo? Do you want to die? The 20 to 30 examinees behind him were shocked. With a loud shout, they all unleashed their fist arts, attacking Xia Ping. Terrifying fist imprints blasted over, covering the sky and covering the earth like a waterfall. However, when these energies blasted onto Xia Ping's body, they were instantly blocked. In fact, there was even a terrifying rebounding force that reverberated back, slamming into the bodies of these exam candidates. Ah! It's not impossible to let you go, but each of you must compensate me with 500 million yuan for mental damage and education fees. Xia Ping also put forward his condition of letting this group of examinees go. Hearing this, an examinee from Shuzhou district shouted, 500 million yuan for mental damage and education fees, you're robbing us. With a bang, Shi Fei went forward and slapped the examinee, causing him to roll over. He scolded, what nonsense are you talking about? My big brother asked you to compensate 500 million yuan, so 500 million yuan. Why are you still talking nonsense here? Do you know how serious the mental damage you've caused is when you started intimidating us? It almost caused us to have insomnia at night and couldn't sleep. Even our martial arts cultivation was about to regress. In order to educate you guys to know what's good for you, to know how high the heavens are and how deep the earth is, and to teach you guys some manners, do you know how much effort we've put in? To ask you to pay 500 million yuan for education fees is already thinking highly of you, do you know that? We don't care about ordinary people at all. Seeing this, the corner of Feng Hatang's mouth twitched. Damn, why is this guy acting more like a lackey than me? If this goes on, I might not be able to keep my position. For the first time, he felt that his position could be threatened by others. Shameless. Roddy and the others were infuriated. It was clearly them who had been beaten up, and they were seriously injured. Yet, he said that he had suffered mental damage. They had never seen such a shameless person. How could there be someone who was mentally damaged and still be so lively? Chapter 268. However, even if Roddy and the others were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. They had to lower their heads under the eaves. If this continued, these bastards might throw them into the cave and feed them to the beasts. Therefore, they could only sign the contract with Xia Ping. Each of them paid 500 million federal coins. There were a total of 20 to 30 of them, and they paid a total of 15 billion federal coins. Not bad, not bad. Seeing Roddy and the others sign the contract, Xia Ping was very satisfied. Although you guys have bad morals and have no conscience, you still respect your teachers and know some remorse. As the saying goes, knowing your mistakes and changing is the greatest good. If there is a chance next time, I will teach you guys a lesson. The price can also be halved. Teach my ass. Roddy and the others gritted their teeth and wanted to bite this shameless Xia Ping to death immediately. He extorted 500 million federal coins from each of them, and he was still making sarcastic remarks here. No matter how stupid they were, they would not give 500 million to someone else to beat them up. Wasn't that asking for a beating? If there was a chance, they would definitely not let this kid off. However, they did not dare to say anything here. Otherwise, if they were too arrogant, they were afraid that they would be beaten up by this group of shameless people again. They would suffer a big loss. Yes, 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 this is all our fault. If there is nothing else, we will leave. We have been a little busy recently. The candidates from Shuzhou district shouted. They wanted to leave and did not want to stay here for even a second. Really? You are leaving so soon. Why don't I ask someone to send you guys off? After all, there are many monsters on the way and it is dangerous. Don't worry, our fee is not expensive. Xia Ping said with a harmonious expression. No need to send us off. Big brothers, you still have to hunt firethorn lizards. You are busy, so don't send us off. Although some of us have a broken leg, we can still walk by ourselves. Yes, don't send us off. You are too polite. Big brothers, do your own things. Hearing this, the expressions of Roddy and the others changed. They had just been extorted 500 million from each of them. If they were sent off by these bastards, they did not know how much money they would lose. They might even lose their underwear. They supported each other and limped away from the mountain. Although they were all injured and some had their legs broken, they did not dare to stay here any longer. They were afraid that these bastards would change their minds and they would be in trouble. In a few minutes, the group disappeared from the mountain. Although they were injured, they could still run faster than rabbits. It seems like they are fine. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to run so fast. I was worried for nothing. Xia Ping sighed as he watched the group of examinees from Shuzhou district leave. Jiang Yaru and the others looked at Xia Ping with disdain. If he was threatened like this, it would be strange if he didn't run away quickly. If it were them, they would probably crawl to get away from this dangerous person. However, Shi Fei and the others felt extremely refreshed. They had lived for so many years, but they had rarely felt so awe-inspiring. They had always been bullied by Roddy and that group of bastards like them as a laughingstock. But now, the slave had become the master. It seemed that although this bastard Xia Ping was a bit hateful and liked to extort, but if he was one of his own people, he was still a good person. Alright, ignore them. Let's go hunt the firethorn lizards. Xia Ping waved his hand and led the way into the cave. Whoosh! Whoosh! Immediately, the group walked in. They found that the cave was pitch black. Only the glowing grass growing on the walls could barely give off light. If they went any deeper, it would be pitch black. The cave was very large, at least 1,000 square meters. But what made it difficult was that there were dozens of tunnels around the cave. They did not know where each tunnel led to. The terrain was very complicated. Crap, this is a bit troublesome. I didn't think there would be so many tunnels here. Those firethorn lizards like to drill holes. They would drill here and there as a form of exercise. Over time, the mountain was filled with tunnels. The terrain is very complicated. If you go in and don't know the way, you might get lost and never come out. The problem is, those firethorn lizards are hiding in the depths of the cave. If you don't go in, they won't come out. Roddy and the others were probably worried about this. That was why they lingered at the cave entrance and did not go in. Everyone discussed among themselves. They were in a difficult situation. After all, they were not familiar with this place. If they went in casually and got lost, they might be attacked by the firethorn lizards. That would be terrible. There is no need to go in. We just need to lure the firethorn lizards out. Xia Ping touched his chin. Hearing that, the crew-cut candidate, Wu Tong, was stunned. Lure them out? How do we lure these monsters out? Very simple. With a smack, Xia Ping immediately took out something. It was a gemstone fruit. It was a small piece of gemstone fruit that he had not finished yet. Gemstone fruit? Seeing the fruit, Wu Tong and the others' expressions changed. They recognized the fruit and looked at Xia Ping in shock. Where did you find such a fruit? That is a secret. Xia Ping did not plan to answer their questions. He looked at the cave entrance. This gemstone fruit is naturally attractive to monsters. Even the firethorn lizards can't resist the gemstone fruit. Once they smell the fragrance, they will definitely run out. Then, we can hunt the firethorn lizards here. There is no need to go deep into the cave. He clearly remembered the scene of countless monsters rushing at the oasis a few days ago. From this, it could be seen how attractive the gemstone fruit was to ordinary monsters. Retreat first. We will deal with these firethorn lizards outside. After saying that, Xia Ping led the others out of the cave. He looked at the only cave entrance in front of him. If the firethorn lizards came out, they could only come out from this cave entrance. Then, he placed the gemstone fruit on the ground. Immediately, the gemstone fruit emitted a rich fragrance and quickly entered the cave. It went through dozens of tunnels and spread to who knew how far. Rumble. After only 3 minutes, a terrifying tremor came from the ground. It was as if the entire mountain was shaking. The gravel on the ground was shaking violently and sand and dust billowed. What is going on? Why is there such a big movement? How many firethorn lizards are coming out? Feeling the movement, Wu Tong and the others' faces turned green. To be able to cause such a tremor, it was not just 10 or dozens of them. Maybe hundreds of them came out. Chapter 269. Boom! At that moment, a blood-red shadow flew out of the cave. It whistled and formed a strong wind that rushed toward Xiaoping. Immediately, a strong aura of fire spread out, like a volcanic eruption. Everyone present felt extremely hot, as if they would be roasted into charcoal by the heat. A firethorn lizard? Xiaoping suddenly attacked. With a palm strike, a force of hundreds of thousands of kilograms exploded. Like a flood bursting through a dam, it instantly slapped the blood-red shadow. Ah! Immediately, the creature let out a shrill scream. Its entire body was slapped away and smashed into the opposite mountain wall. With a cracking sound, a large hole was smashed open. When the smoke and dust dispersed, the blood-red shadow revealed its true appearance. Its body was about twice the size of a cat. Like a gecko, it crawled on all fours and wagged its tail. It was extremely fast. Once it moved, it was like a sports car running at full speed. Its body was covered with many sharp thorns. There were also 2 sharp thorns on its head, which were fiery red. It looked like a flame tank. At that moment, the firethorn lizard was hit by Xiaoping's palm. It fell to the ground and coughed up blood. Its body twitched for 5 or 6 seconds before it completely stopped struggling and stopped breathing. Amazing! Its vitality is really tenacious. Xiaoping's eyes flashed. When he slapped the firethorn lizard, it was like slapping steel. Moreover, the thorns on its body were indestructible and extremely sharp. If he hadn't covered his hands with true qi, the thorns would have probably pierced through his palms. This was an out-and-out ferocious beast. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. But this was just the beginning. With the death of the firethorn lizard, angry roars came from the cave, shaking the mountain. Many blood-red shadows rushed out, one after another. Interesting. Come and die. Xiaoping stood at the front of the cave, his fists like seals. He had no fear at all. Countless fist shadows appeared in midair, bombarding the firethorn lizards. Bang bang bang. Fists and thorns collided, causing dazzling sparks. It was like a sword rubbing against steel. One by one, the firethorn lizards were hit by the fists. They immediately screamed and flew backward. In just a few breaths, Xiaoping had killed dozens of them. But even so, there were still dozens of them that darted past Xiaoping. They madly pounced towards Jiang Yaru and the others, exuding a terrifying killing intent, wanting to tear their prey to shreds. Courting death. A cold light flashed in Jiang Yaru's eyes. After advancing to the martial warrior realm, her strength had greatly increased. Even when facing these firethorn lizards, she wasn't the slightest bit afraid. Just at this moment, her feet stood on the ground, and countless large hands appeared in midair, like the 1,000 hands of Buddha. Her body burst out with a burst of light, and her fair and tender little hands were covered with a terrifying true qi. With a bang, 2 or 3 firethorn lizards tried to rush over, but they were slapped by a large hand. Countless streams of energy gathered together, instantly exploding with a terrifying force. The firethorn lizards let out miserable shrieks as their lungs were shattered. Die! Chu Rong also stepped forward. She practiced leg techniques, and the strength of her feet was several times stronger than the strength of her hands. Every kick she sent out was like a wild elephant, causing the air to tremble and rumble. One after another, the firethorn lizards that tried to get close to her were all sent flying with a single kick. Their heads were shattered, and they died on the spot. As for Nangong Wu, she executed supreme footwork, shuttling back and forth between the firethorn lizards as if she was dancing. Her fair and tender palms slapped out, containing an extremely soft and gentle power. With a bang, the firethorn lizards fell to the ground one after another, dumbfounded. If someone cut open their bodies, they would be able to see that their lungs had been shattered like tofu. Feng Hetang charged forward like a tank, crushing everything in his path. One after another, the firethorn lizards tried to rush over, but they were all sent flying by his true chi. He was invincible. Holy shit, how can these fellows be so strong? Wu Tong and the others were also dumbfounded. Before this, they had never seen Jiang Yaru and the others display their strength, and thought that these fellows were fake. But who would have thought that once they erupted with their strength, they would be so ferocious? Although they were only at the first heavenly layer of the martial warrior realm, they could even fight against an ordinary second heavenly layer of the martial warrior realm. Seeing this, Wu Tong and the others were not to be outdone. They couldn't afford to be looked down upon here. One by one, they rushed forward, madly attacking each other, killing the firethorn lizards that escaped the net. After a full 2 hours, the surroundings of the cave were filled with the corpses of the firethorn lizards, forming a small mountain. Large amounts of blood spread out on the ground. Preliminary estimates showed that at least 2,000 firethorn lizards had died. Of which, Xia Ping killed 1,000, while the other 1,000 were killed by Jiang Yaru and the others. With so many dead firethorn lizards, the other firethorn lizards in the cave seemed to have been scared out of their wits. None of them dared to come out again. Phew, it's finally over. Seeing that no more firethorn lizards came out, Wu Tong and the others collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. After such an intense battle, they had practically exhausted all their strength. They couldn't help but secretly rejoice that they had brought Xia Ping and the others here. Otherwise, facing so many firethorn lizards, more than half of them would have died. But with Xia Ping blocking in front of them, he had killed almost half of the firethorn lizards, greatly reducing the pressure on them. So until now, no one had died. At most, they had suffered some minor injuries. Didn't they say that the firethorn lizards were edible? How did they eat them? Xia Ping grabbed a dead firethorn lizard and looked at its body. It was covered with hard skin and thorns, just like stone. When a sword or saber cut it, sparks would appear. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a creature that could be eaten. I just need to cut its body. Nangong Wu came up and took out a knife. She forcefully cut the firethorn lizard's body, splitting it into two. Immediately, she found a piece of white meat from the firethorn lizard's body. It was about the size of a fist and immediately emitted a fragrant smell. It was crystal clear and contained an extremely high amount of energy. Can this be eaten? Xia Ping reached out and took a look. Nangong Wu nodded. Yes, just eat it raw. Xia Ping ate it. Immediately, he felt as if it was jelly. It melted in his mouth and flowed down his throat, then into his stomach. Boom! Very quickly, the meat was digested and transformed into energy that flowed through his meridians, replenishing the energy he had consumed. Amazing! This meat really can be eaten, and it's extremely delicious. Xia Ping was very surprised. He had only eaten one piece, but he actually felt as if all the energy he had consumed had been replenished. In fact, his true chi was even showing signs of growing. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.